Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to an all new season of the UKSimRacing community's Porsche Cup. For indeed, we kick off today season 10. Goodness me, it is crazy to think we are on the 10th instalment of the ever popular Flat 6 series, all focused around the German legendary machine that is the Porsche Cup machine. And we are here today to kick off said 10th instalment with a visit to the United States of America and the one and only Virginia International Raceway. Located in the state from which it takes its name, this is a circuit that is going to keep our drivers on their toes from the outset, as they'll have to combat their way for an aggressive challenge. Always the best part of 17 corners with many a straight, but also many a direction change crammed in there. And with this circuit being tough in even the most stable of machines, it is going to be an absolute challenge for our drivers to unpick today as they look to begin their journey in an all-new season of racing. For speaking of an all-new season of racing, we have the best part of which 8 weeks of racing ahead of us, 12 rounds, and indeed, whilst many things behind the scenes are not changing when it comes to the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup, what is changing is the fact we've got a whole new set of drivers on the grid, as well as many a veteran returning, and that means it's only going to be ever tighter as our drivers get ready to go racing today in this season opener. But we welcome you guys and girls to the show. This show being broadcast live on 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure from circuit side, both of those being the official UKSimRacing media platform channels, including on our YouTube channel, of which we need to say hello to our first person in the chat, in the YouTube chat, that being Ruben Bearings there, who said, can the waiting stop already? Well, the waiting has finally stopped for you, Ruben, and we are only moments away from going into our opening qualified session of the season. And welcome to you and indeed all the guys and girls tuning in via YouTube, and well, that's at YouTube at UKSimRacing on the YouTube search bar. But if you're not tuning in via YouTube, you could alternatively be searching via Twitch, and that's at twitch.tv/UKSimRacing. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch, as we see there the YouTube chat, Thomas Cope saying, let's get ready to rumble. And indeed, it's not going to be quite fisticuffs, but it is going to be the metaphorical boxing gloves or the driving gloves going on for our drivers as they get ready to take to their testy steeds that are the Porsche Cup 902 machines. But whether you're tuning in by YouTube or Twitch, you've got the pleasure of this broadcast, indeed all this season, being brought to you live from circuit side by myself in the content booth. And allow me to introduce myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX1 Quad or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. Now we bring you all your racing action over the course of the season. Speaking of the season, let's give you a look into the calendar, and as we can see, 12 rounds await over 8 weeks of race, so a break week thrown into the mix as well. And we begin our journey today on the 4th of April 2024. Indeed, we have got an action-packed calendar. We begin at the Virginia International Raceway. We've raced there many a time previously. And then we make our way from the United States to Belgium to Central Europe for Circuit Zolder for rounds 2 and 3. Our first heat and feature combination round. On the 11th of April, we're going to be seeing our drivers having to take to some very tricky chicanes. After that, they'll make their way back to the United States of America for a double header in the States, starting rounds 4 and 5 at Road America, the classic American asphalt playing host to our drivers. Indeed, as they make their way through the picturesque countryside of Elkhart Lake, they're going to be contesting one of what is the oldest circuit in American history, but they're able to pull off that with aplomb. And then they're going to be making their way to Sebring International Raceway, and that'll be for our second endurance race round of the season on the 25th of April. And now our drivers are going to have to deal with the combination of concrete slabs and more modern asphalt, as our drivers feel the suspension shocks and bounce is all the way through each and every lap at Sebring. Then we have our mid-season break week, and when our drivers do return, they'll be returning on what will be the 9th of May 2024 to kick off the second half of the season. Now we are around 7 and 8 at the one and only circuit, the Spa-Francorchamps, a circuit that arguably needs no introduction on the European stage, particularly in Belgium. And well, we'll start off by going to everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, that being Circuit Zolder, and then we're going to everybody's favourite Belgian circuit, Spa-Francorchamps. And on the 16th of May, we're going to be making our way to Germany for a circuit that is becoming a staple of our championship calendars, that being the Nürburgring Combined or the Nürburgring Gesamtstrecke on the 16th of May for round number 9. And while our drivers are going to have a test just about outlasting the circuit, as it is going to be about their skills and pace behind the helm of their chosen machinery. And in our penultimate week of racing, we make our way to Italy for a debutant onto our championship calendar, and that'll be rounds 10 and 11 at the Autodromo International del Mugello. Our drivers are going to take it to that circuit on the 23rd of May and looking to demonstrate the prowess of a circuit that's very young in the world of iRacing, and is a circuit that's been absolutely anticipated on the broadcasting system, indeed the racing system of that, and they'll be looking forward to flexing their skills there when they do go racing. And our season finale in round number 12 be at Circuit Zandvoort, the undroppable round of the season. Indeed, our drivers are allowed to drop 1 week of racing, but they're not allowed to drop the final week of racing with round number 12. So therefore, the stakes are going to be high all the way to the finish, and that means our drivers are going to need to be on their finest driving behaviour from lights out to checker flag, round after round, if they want to come away as the champions of this season. So 8 weeks of racing, 12 rounds packed in there, an absolutely brilliant combination of circuits. Many of them circuits we've raced at time and time again, but we do see the arrival of the Mugello circuit, and that's only going to add flavour into the mix. And then coming to our circuit for today then, it's the Virginia International Raceway full course, located near the unincorporated community of Alton in Halifax County of the state of Virginia in the United States of America. As you can see for the circuit map, provided by iRacing.com, and thank you to iRacing, of course, not just for their brilliant simulator, but also the fantastic track mats that come with it. This is a circuit like no other when it comes to direction changes, left, right and centre over the entirety of the lap, and with many of the style of machine from what is NASCAR all the way through to GT3 racing around here, it's no surprise that this is an ever popular circuit for drivers to demonstrate their skills. But as they make their way across the start finish straight, through the curvature in towards Horseshoe at turn number 1, they're going to be finding themselves charging into that opening braking zone, and what a tricky braking zone it is for a very late apex, but get it right, they'll make their way through the kicker 2 in preparation for braking into NASCAR Bend at turn number 3. Now maybe you may be asking, why does turn number 3 take the name of NASCAR Bend? We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go into qualifying. Let's not reveal too much information just yet, but as they make their way out of NASCAR Bend, they'll go into left-right combination of turns 4 and 5, known as the left hook, before making their way through 5A and onto arguably what is a straight, but not without a multitude of small kinks in it. Speaking of those kinks, as they make their way under the bridge, they'll head through State Corner at turns 6 and 6A, and flat out they'll roar their way through the curves at turns 7, 8 and 9 into South Bend at turn number 10. Then it's going to be about confidence and carrying as much speed as possible through the corner, where if you get it wrong and go off onto the grass, you're going to have a very long journey downhill into the weeds. Keep it on circuit and manage to survive, and what you may just find yourself doing is getting ready to brake into the hairpin at Oak Tree Corner at turns 11 and 12. The double right angle apex corner, and as the drivers will make their way out of the hairpin, they'll make their way onto the back straight and roar their way all the way down towards the roller coaster that is turns 14 and 14A. Now maybe you'll be wondering, well, doesn't that sound as though it's a bit of a roller coaster ride? It could be synonymous to Laguna Seca in the US state of California. Well, you'd be absolutely right, as it is Virginia's own corkscrew, if you will, albeit the apex is spread out a little bit more. And as the drivers make the way out to the left-hander at turn number 15, they'll head into Hogpen Corner via 16, and the right-hander at turn number 17 are taking the name of Hogpen as they roar their way out to the final corner. And whilst it may be a shorter straight going to the start for this straight compared to the back straight, it is the one where they'll reach the highest top speeds, given the fact they'll be exiting Hogpen Corner in excess of 80 miles an hour, and they'll be charging away onto a new lap or towards that checker flag whenever it comes. Indeed, those laps are going to come fast and furious, and all the drivers are going to be absolutely itching to get underway, there's no doubt about it. But let's give you a quick reminder of the rules. We can't go race without them. Qualifying wise tonight, because it is an endurance race round, it's an open qualifying format lasting 20 minutes, of which our drivers have that time to set their best possible time, but they may not reset to the pit lane any time outside of the pits, as in doing so shall end the qualifying session. Race wise, we'll see the return of the maximum permitted fuel load of 30 litres. That will require at least one pit stop in the race, if not two, and there's going to be a single 45-minute endurance race commencing via a standing start. The endurance race future will be set based on the results of qualifying, but there'll be no mandatory pit stop required, so our drivers choose when to pit and choose what to do in the pit, and the drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 24 or more instant points. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything between. Let's give you a quick recap of our schedule for today, timed in what is British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinate Time +1, UTC +1. It's crazy to think that we have had daylight savings hit us already, but here we are into April, and as we go, we can see that tonight it's going to be in just under 5 minutes time. We head into 20 minutes of qualifying at 8 o'clock, and then after that we'll go straight to the grid for our one and only race day, the round 1 endurance race at 8:20. But as our drivers get set and make their way on around the circuit right now, you do hear that wonderful roar of what is Black 6 machinery, albeit Emil Koopmans there demonstrating what exactly happens when you go off circuit. What was the run there coming on through turn number 10, indeed taking to the grass and rejoining gradually. We've got a number of new and older drivers on the grid, and we've got Olympus Esports making the return as always. And well, right now we're going to be getting a word from a member of Olympus Esports, indeed a stalled of what has been many a championship campaign in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup, and we're going to be speaking to none other than Thomas Cope, who's not on the grid for this season, unfortunately not quite able to make it due to a change of circumstances, but he's with me now. Good evening to you, Thomas. How have you been? And goodness me, aren't you itching to get out there with all the other drivers?
Yeah, I've been well, thank you for asking. Nah, I really want to be out on this grid. There's some really good names. Having Patrick, an old teammate of Olympus, running under a new skin, obviously with Apex Academy now, but it'd be nice to be back on track with him. Philip Hammer's still on the grid. Koopmans, we've still got Dan following on from the storm from last season, and some new Olympus faces. Yeah, I'm a bit sad that I can't drive this season, but I really want to try and get out there as much as I can.
Well, indeed, and we're going to miss you on the grid. There's no doubt about that. It's not quite the same without seeing yourself and Philip Hammer go toe-to-toe. And, well, we've seen plenty of battles, and there's definitely a reason why you are one of our Hall of Famers in the Gold Drivers' Championship. You mentioned only moments ago about a good number of your teammates, and we've got 2 new drivers for Olympus Esports on the grid this season, including Afonso Souto and also, I do believe, there David van der Waals. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, so David's actually been around the team for a while. He's very new to the Porsche Cup. He's a very good kid, though. He's got some really good pace. Racing out of the Netherlands, he is really good. Hoping to see him shine a little bit and do well in class, and hopefully just get some good results on the board and learn and understand through the season. Kind of like Dan a little bit, where he's going to get better and better with every race. And then moving on, Afonso, yeah, he's fairly new to the team as well. I think he's actually only just joined within last, well, I can't even recall, like probably 4 or 5 weeks. He's recently joined. So this will be his first league under the Olympus belt. But yeah, he's a very good fast kid as well. He's got some promising pace, and we've seen him in other events, and he's going to shine this year. He's going to be up there, I think, if he can knuckle down and get some really good results on the grid. And then, yeah, Connor as well, fairly new to joining Olympus. Obviously, he did some of the races for the GT3 last year. We kind of did some team sessions in the Porsche Cup, and he's kind of bonded with the Porsche Cup a little bit. So we're going to see him shine as well. And once again, he's going to go leaps and bounds throughout the year and just build up. And hopefully, fingers crossed, and I don't want to put a curse on it, I think he's going to get some good results in that silver class.
Well, we definitely do look forward to seeing how Connor and indeed the 2 newcomers of the team, i.e. Souto and also Van der Waals, do. But of course, one driver we can never forget the name of is none other than good old Daniel Sedgley. Unfortunate to miss out on the Gold Drivers' Championship last season at Oran Park, despite the win in the season finale. How's Dan feeling down there, given the fact that we are reckoning he's going to be the #1 contender versus Philip Hammer, who's looking, of course, to make it 5 Drivers' Championships?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting watching Dan and Philip Hammer battle this year. I mean, you saw the back end of last season at Oran Park. He really showed the pace that he can bring now. I mean, he's back end of some of the other championships in the Porsche Cup, and Dan's come leap and bounds in his car. I think he's going to shine this year. Especially with me not on the grid, he can shine that a little bit more. He's kind of got to carry the banner for the Olympus in the grid, but yeah, Dan drives better under the pressure, and yeah, he's going to get some good results this year, and hopefully some couple of wins as well.
Well, we definitely look forward to seeing what Dan can do at the front. Of course, he's going to have a little bit more pressure than most on him out there. But then, of course, coming to the wider season ahead, Thomas, I mean, we've got a whole host of rounds, many of them returning circuits from last season, but we've also got arriving on the calendar what is none other than Mugello later on. Are there any rounds that particularly caught your eye when you've looked at the calendar?
Oh, there was definitely a couple of rounds that caught my eye that I'm really sad that I definitely won't be available for, but there's a couple that I'm hoping to be available for and try and sweet talk my way in and maybe do a guest star, but we'll leave that off. I'm not going to reveal anything else other than that. But you may see me on the grid, and you'll know which track when you see me there, which is it's going to be a good eventful race potentially.
Oh, well, we look forward to that, and any opportunity to see you race, even if it's just for 1 or 2 rounds, I'm sure it's going to get the blood pumping from all the drivers on the grid and build the excitement ever more in what will be the spectator stands. But just with qualifying around the corner, for any of our drivers who are relatively new to the series, whether it's some of your teammates Olympus Esports or elsewhere on the grid, if you could impart one word of advice for our drivers listening right now, what would it be?
Patience. The car's not the easiest to get the best laps in at the start, so you've got 20 minutes to get your laps in, so don't try and go for those laps straight away. And especially with more cars on track, it's going to be an eventful qualifying here.
Oh, no doubt about it. And also a thought, of course, no rain yet in the world of iRacing for the Porsche Cup machine, although many are rumoured down in the virtual paddock with regards to could we see rain for the official Nürburgring 24 and it eventually arrive into the world of Porsche Cup on the iRacing platform. What are your thoughts on rain? Should it come at some point?
It definitely will come. I mean, I did break the game a little bit. I managed to get the Porsche Cup on the rain in the dry tyres, which I know was a little bit of a bug that was out there, but it is definitely fun out on that rain, and it will be spicy when we can get some good rain rates in. And I think I can't wait for rain to really come for the Porsche Cup and shine and really put a different challenge on the car. The car's not easy as it is, but rain's just going to be a completely new level.
Oh, without a doubt. I think everyone's absolutely excited for the prospect of rain, but also we've got some absolutely exciting races ahead starting with this qualifying session. Thomas, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room for a brief moment before we go racing, and we definitely do hope to see you on the grid at some point this season, but also glad to hear you're in good spirits. And any last words from yourself before we do let you go?
Yeah, I want to wish all the drivers throughout the whole championship to have a good year, have a good season, and yeah, really enjoy every moment on every track. There's some good tracks out there that you can really fulfill and really find love with the Porsche Cup. So I hope all the other drivers experience that and just bond with the car more and hopefully come back next season.
Well, Thomas, we'll hold you to it. Hope to see you back on the grid in Ford Season 11, perhaps a little bit earlier this season. But with that, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing there from Thomas Cope, a one-time champion in the gold drivers class, and of course multi-time champion in the teams championship with Olympus Esports and Olympus XGD. So he knows exactly what he's talking about, no doubt about it. It's so great to hear from one of our champions, one of our Hall of Famers as we go into the racing this season. And we are going to try and mix things up with the broadcast this season, perhaps get a word or two from our drivers in the build-up to each and every round where we can. But you heard there from Thomas Cope from Olympus Esports, not on the grid for this season, but we're definitely expecting to see him on the grid at some point based on what he suggested, and hopefully see him back for season 11. But now we are into qualifying, of course, and we have got the best part of still what is 17.5 minutes left in this qualifying session. But the big question that everyone's going to be asking is what exactly is happening out there at the moment? Well, the conditions so far, and what is this Virginia International Raceway circuit, they are looking relatively cloudy, albeit no sign of rain on the horizon. Unfortunately, we can't quite have rain yet, as we only just discussed with our interviewee. But what we can tell you is, with those clouds brimming over, it's a relatively cool circuit. And you can see on the right hand side of your screen there, track temperature 21 degrees centigrade, and what is the best part, of 19 degrees centigrade at the ambient temperature, and that means that this circuit really is not going to come alive too nicely for our drivers. They're going to have to work quite hard to get those tyre temperatures up, but when they do, they'll be able to push the car quite aggressively and not worry necessarily about tyre degradation being as aggressive as it would be if we saw those track temperatures upwards of 30 degrees centigrade. Indeed, the tyres in these Porsche Cup cars are very sensitive. We talk about it so often in each and every round of racing, but it's the truth, as we see a bit of contact there between ways. I believe that's Mats Strand from Racing Esports and one of our drivers from Olympus Esports. I believe that may have been Afonso Suto. In fact, that was not Suto. Suto's coming through right now. We're not quite sure who that was. I think it could have potentially been what was Patrick, well, not Patrick Thompson there. My apologies, I'm reading the wrong name. In fact, Daniel Sedgey there, as we do read our standings. Daniel Sadji might have had a little bit of an elbows out moment, but still they've been able to survive it, no doubt about it. And while the drivers rip and roll their way through, what does it take to put a good lap in and therefore potentially take pole position in a qualifying session at VIR? Well, the first things first, you've got to be patient with the car, and that's exactly what Thomas Cope was saying only moments ago. This circuit is one of those circuits whereby you dip a tyre off of the road surface, you're going for a ride on the grass, and we saw that only earlier on from what's Emerald Cookman's effect simulations of the practice session, and we're certain many a driver may have a similar experience when they do make the way around here on 4-tap pace in qualifying or the race. So you've got to be patient, but also you've got to be ready to nail those late apexes. They are absolutely challenging at those late apexes, no doubt about it. And where if you can find them, particularly say turn at number 1, of which we're seeing a demonstration here. Romain Hale today as he makes his way through turn number 1. We'll turn to the NASCAR bend at turn at number 3, or later on at Oak Tree Hairpin. And turns 11 and 12, if you get those late apexes right, you can make or lose the best part of 2-3 attempts on the following straight, and that could be worth all the difference on the raw. But we look at a Rexy machine that's roaring its way on the right now for the null pointers in the form of Owen Halliday, but as he makes his way on around the circuit, we do also have some other drives that we definitely do need to look at introducing. And well, speaking of those drives we need to introduce, we do have some returning names to the grid, and well, some of them from a long time ago. And one of them, of course, is racing for Apex Racing Academy. It is Patrick Thompson, the Danishman, making his way on through there. What is turns 11 and 12 right now as he comes on through the hairpin. Well, it's great seeing him back on the grid. It's been some time, and he's been racing for Apex Racing Academy in a whole variety of series, but he's been able to make his way back onto the grid. And you'd have to look all the way back, if my memory serves me correctly, to season 7, which is when he made his debut. And indeed, when Olympus Esports made their debut in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup, and it was an absolutely great season for the team and also for Patrick. And it's great to see him back on the grid today and looking to shine high in an all-new livery with the team that holds his name of Apex Racing Academy. And as he makes his way on down through turns 16 into 17, going into Hog Pen, getting himself all set up and ready to attack the circuit like no other. And well, as he roars his way on towards the timeline, I think it's only fair that we jump on board with him here as he comes towards the end of a flying lap. What's he going to be able to do here as he straight lines it as tight to the wall and heads onto another lap where it is going to be a jump to original pole, and then we take him around for a flying lap of the circuit as he breaks 100 meters from the opening corner, goes very deep but catches the car just in time, and as he makes his way through turn at number 1 in towards turns 2 and 3. Well, I think back in the car off already there as he just lifts it off through turns 2 and 3 into NASCAR Bend. And well, I think Thompson might actually be using this as a bit of a cool down lap in order to get himself set up for the next lap. So we're not going to get the full lap from Patrick Thompson just yet, but what we will do is get an on-board lap with one of our other drivers instead. And well, we're going to be jumping to what will be Daniel Sedgey as he makes his way down towards turn at number 1, currently down in P17, and he's looking to improve on this lap. Making all the way down to second gear, nice tight open apex, holding 55 miles an hour the apex. He powers his way on through the right-hander and now in towards NASCAR Bend by turn 2. As he goes through the apex 2 onto the brakes nice and early, 150 meters of corner apex, mounting an apex curve in third gear, battling with some oversteer as he powers his way into turn number 4. Through the left into right he goes, and as he does through left hook into the right-hander at turn number 5, short shift to third gear as he mounts the curve and now opens up turn number 6. He makes his way through the snake and now heading up towards the bridge as he straight lines his way between the little kinks in the road and between the apexes. Under the bridge he goes and in towards turns 7, 8, 9, and keep your eye on the speedometer in the bottom right corner. 6th gear, 154 miles an hour, 155 at the highest point as he makes his way over the horizon into turn number 10. Through the left-hander, drops the gear down to 4th and slams it into the apex. He brings the car to the left-hand side onto the brakes, 125 meters of corner apex down to second gear. Now just wait for it, build the speed up at the exit Oak Tree hairpin, and now full throttle all the way down the back straight, heading back up to top gear. A little bit of traffic in front of him, but it's going to be steering clear. I do believe that's Corey Lazarus who's stepping aside as he makes his way in the run all the way up towards what will be the roller coaster at turns 14 and 14A, and at what will be 165 miles an hour. He breaks his way down, breaking 200 meters of corner apex, trail breaking all the way through to the right-hander as he comes on down into the left-hander of the discount corkscrew as he makes his way through turn number 15 in towards 16 he goes, and as he does so here, bringing it all the way down to third gear through Hog Pen and flat out now as much as he dares to dream to do so. A little bit tough, the car in front, that's only going to help Sedgey as he makes his way to the line, and well, he's been improving over the entirety of the lap. He'll straight line his way through the curvature of the start-finish straight, hits the road limiter there briefly. That's going to cost him about a 10th as he crosses the line. What's it going to be for Sedgey? It's P5. It's time to improve to 47.117, but I think you'll feel as though there's plenty more time out there, given our fastest lap so far has been set by Thompson, and it is a 46.429, and well, the delta there between the two of them, 7 attempts at this time, and right now Sedgey is going to need to find a little bit more time, but as he does so, meanwhile, we do see currently P2 with Apex Racing Academy's Thompson ahead of Olympus Esports' Afonso Souto, and the Portuguese driver new on the grid, as we heard earlier, and we're looking forward to seeing how he gets on here today, and he's not the only newcomer on the grid. Of course, we talked a little bit about the fact we also have David van der Waal, who's on the grid from Olympus Esports, the Dutchman who's currently on an outlap down in P20. We also do have a couple of other new names in the silver class. We do have Alistair Pollock, who's racing for ATEC Tech Racing, as he makes his way through the sign outfit of the two of them, we should point out. And well, we're looking forward to seeing how he gets on, potentially a silver star in the car as he makes his way towards the timeline. And he's currently sat in P5 in the silver class here, always the best part of P13 overall. pole, and where he's going to jump up to P11, getting ahead of Joel Dutton and also Glenn Humberstone as he makes his way down into turn at number 1. And look how close it is in the silver class right now. Connor Craven, currently your silver pole sitter provisionally, and that is by the best part of 3/10 over Daniel Weston. But do not fret, the DCW Racing driver, indeed I know a number of you tune in are DCW Racing fans. Well, Weston right now definitely showing a lot of pace out there and looking to get closer and closer when it comes to that qualifying lap. He's got a bit of traffic in front of him coming out of Hogpen Cornet, steps aside. It's where the A-Tip Racing Machines, I think that's Glenn Humberstone, but as Weston crosses the time, in fact that's Craig Shield there. Humberstone previously in front, and now Shield crosses the line. But what's it going to be as he comes across the line? Weston does improve. He's now only a 10th of a Craven's pole time in the silver class on a 48.083. It's a sizable improvement as me or Daniel Sedgley moves up to P4, demoting New Zealander Corey Lazarus down to P5. And well, here's the blackout OPR driver. Who could forget him? The driver that everybody loves to see out there, given the fact that he's one of those drivers who never gives up whatsoever, and gives it everything out on circuit time and time again. And when he makes his way on through and up towards the timeline, we look forward to seeing what Lazarus is going to be able to do in the car as he roars his way onwards towards what will be another lap very shortly. And well, as he does so, make his way down towards turn number 1, which is going to back off there, in fact let other drivers on through and I think get himself set up for another lap. But as he makes his way on a cool down lap here, or to get himself warmed up for the next lap, we do need to say hello to a few more of you guys and girls in the respective chats, including Charles Burchell there from Olympus Esports in the Twitch chat, who's cheering on what is Daniel Sedgley, and well, looking forward to seeing how he gets on, as well as the wider team, of course. We also say hello there to Fire Katie in the Twitch chat, who's cheering on the Halliday brothers of Paul and Owen. And well, here is Owen right now, one of the 2 members of the Knoll Pointers, and let's not forget about Paul either, albeit it's sometimes a bit difficult to see his car given the fact it is very well camouflaged. As you can see that we're talking about the paint scheme. Indeed it does stand quite nicely on the Porsche Cup machine as he makes his way down in towards the braking zone of turn at number 1. And well, Paul Halliday, of course, in season 9 was tipped to be the main rival to eventual championship winner Mats Strand, who has been promoted to the gold class for this season. So Halliday is going to have to reset as of this season and feel as though, okay, theoretically on paper it is Halliday's chance to shine. However, given the pace that we're seeing from other drivers already, it does look as though that whilst Paul Halliday may be the early favourite going into the season, that favourite status may be very quickly being taken away from him come the end of tonight, should things proceed as they currently look to be doing so in the timing tower. But then again, we did see in season 9, it was a season of 2 halves for Paul Halliday, and indeed many a driver. For Halliday, it was all about the first half of the season where he was absolutely running rampant in his battle with Mats Strand. But in the second half of the season, bad luck after bad luck struck him from round to round. And for Paul Halliday, it really was not the season he wanted to end on. But then again, could it be he's just a little bit off the pace right now? And when we go to other venues later on in the season, we could see him really strut his stuff as he goes racing. Well, we'll have to wait and find out, because of course each and every venue we go to is a different circuit, and with different circuits, of course, there's going to be some strong circuits to drivers, also going to be some weak ones, and therefore you can never truly judge how a driver gets on until you've seen the entire season. But as he makes his way on through and in towards turn at number 14, well, speaking of Mats Strand, let's talk a little bit about what would have been our defending silver champion, but of course with his run of form in season 9, he's been promoted to the gold class. And many of you may remember his post-round interview in our season finale, where he talked about the fact that he was absolutely excited for the thought of going to the gold class for this season and stepping up to the plate and going one step further and seeing just how high he could rise. And well, he's got his wish. He's here in the gold class today, and right now 4/10 of Emil Koopman's in P8. But then again, Strand will be finding his feet today, and he'll be looking to gradually grow as the season goes on, and that's where you can't count him out, because indeed the Raceway Esports driver was an absolute tour de force in season 9, and whatever he takes his trade to, he does very well in. Give him time and he will find the pace, and he will be there at the end of the season chasing those podiums and wins. As he makes his way on through, we do look to Guy Kylie from the Wrong Stuff, returning driver from season 9, made his debut with the Wrong Stuff in season 9 and put on some absolutely brilliant performances, particularly in the midpoint of the season, with a couple of podiums in the silver class and a lovely livery on the car. Improves to a personal best of 150.507, but it's not enough to move him up from P20 or P11 in the silver class currently, and therefore he's going to be looking for a bit more out there. But still, there's plenty of time, or say there's plenty of time. There's 6 minutes left on the clock, plus overtime for the final laps our drivers are on when the clock says it strikes 20 minutes, and well, that's going to be on the minds of our drivers, because right now they are starting to run a little bit out of time. Given the lap time here is the best part of 1 3/4 minutes, that means you've only got about 3 more laps to go if you've got the fuel and the tyres to be able to do so. as he heads on through. We've got David Biggerdike currently, who is your provisional pole sitter in the silver class, parked up there on what is a 1 minute 47.95 to nearest 100. In fact, gets out the car, and well, we did see earlier Connor Craven was leading the way. Now Daniel Weston is still out there. Craven's leaving the pit lane, so he's going to try and go for broke. He is only 200ths of a Biggerdike's pole time, and Weston is a further 400ths off, and I can see a good number of you cheering on Daniel Weston, including Ruben Bearings, who's also cheering on. I would believe that would be, when you say Alistair, that's going to be Alistair Pollock, but do feel free to correct me in the chat. We also do say hello to Revo there in the YouTube chat, who's wishing the best luck to DCW Racing, and also Alistair, and again I believe that will be to Alistair Pollock, the ATIC Racing Cyan driver, who's currently parked up in the pit lane, and in fact he's out of the car in the pit lane. He's not in the car and might have decided to leave the qualifying session early in order to get a little bit of rest in. Some drivers, it feels like they've hit a limit in qualifying, and that's enough. They can't go any faster out there. And this circuit right now, it's not quite getting any faster, but there are lap times still coming on through. And we're speaking of one driver making his way on through, up to P6 he goes. It's Vec Simulations, Emil Koopmans, the driver who is still looking up for his first ever overall win in the Porsche Cup. And well, we always talk about this in the fact that the Dutchman is an absolute star in his own right, in the fact he has had some of the worst luck over the course of his history in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup. He's also put on some of the best performances that any driver has, and well, you would argue if there was a Hall of Fame position for the driver who never gives up and gives it everything season after season, this is the man in the 911 car. And it's not just because it's a Porsche 911, that's his door number. And well, Emil Koopmans, he makes his way on through the snake, and onwards he goes towards turns 7, 8, 9. Could this be the season where he finally notches that overall win? Well, we'll have to wait and see as he makes his way on for the Kingston curves of 7, 8, and 9. In towards turn number 10 he goes. 4 minutes still left on the clock, and as he does so, more exchanges happening further up the order. Daniel Sedgin out to P2 on a 46.581. Hammer moves up to P4 on a 46.668. And well, as we see Sedgin making his way on through turn number 2, the big question that we've got about Philip Hammer, of course. Many of you who tuned into the season via, you will remember that in his post-round interview, he said that he was going to be retiring for a while, given the fact he's expecting a newcomer in the family. Well, he's back on the grid. He's been able to find a way to keep on racing, and well, the Impulse Racing driver is here to defend his Gold Drivers' Championship title and potentially extend his record run of titles to 5. And indeed, when you've got the closest driver out there being James Parker, who's sitting on 3 titles, well, Philip Hammer right now in a class of his own and looking to extend that accolade even further. And well, with 3 minutes left to go at a P5 currently, Corey Lazarus leaping up to P2 on a 46.399. Well, Hammer will know, and indeed many will know, that we can see normally one thing happen in races, and as if Hammer's not on pole, he'll be leading the race at some point or looking to lead it, because if he can't find his way on pole position in qualifying, he finds the pace naturally over the races. And we look forward to seeing how it plays out for him today, with some new names in that gold class, particularly Suto and also Van der Waal. But as he makes his way in towards turn 14, coming on down in the right-hander into left, well, he rolls his way on through. We also say hello to Nathan Scott in the YouTube chat, who's very happy to be tuned in, and appreciate the compliment there, Nathan. Very happy to have you tuned in as well. We also say hello to Tom Weston in the YouTube chat, who's cheering on, I would presume, brother Daniel Weston, but feel free to correct me there, Tom. And the DCW Racing crew in absolutely full stride today, tuning in, no doubt about it. But as we do see Hammer cross line, goes up to P4 on a 46.589. Well, back out there at the moment is your provisional pole sitter in the silver class of David Biggerdike, and well, currently P10 overall. And well, we had the driver get it quite wrong there, I do believe, and that's Paul Halliday, in fact, who's had a bit of a nightmare moment going on through turn number 3 at NASCAR Bend. And well, the reason why turn 3 is known as NASCAR Bend for the uninitiated is because back in a race, I do believe it was back in what was the 1980s, unless I'm very much mistaken, it was a showcase race hosted at Virginia International Raceway, albeit my history's not perfect, but 3 of the biggest NASCAR drivers of the time all had major incidents in a single race at turn number 3 at the Virginia International Raceway, and hence the corner got the name NASCAR Bend, because it seems ill-fated for NASCAR drivers to go for it at full pace. And well, there's a little bit of a tidbit of history for you, as we do see Biggerdike going full pace through turns 10 and 11, in fact going for 11 and 12, and as he makes his way on through and up towards what will be the back straight here, full throttle now as Biggerdike heads up the rise. And we'll keep in mind he's got one more lap available to him after this, given us a minute left on the clock, and if our drivers aren't in their final qualifying laps, they will need to be shortly, because that time is ticking away. And Patrick Thompson currently the fastest driver out there, but he's in the pit lane. He won't be getting another lap in. It's a 46.277 to beat overall. And in the silver class, it is what is a 47.95 to beat the nearest 100 from David Biggerdijk for that P10 position, as Van der Waals moved up to P14 further down the order. And the gold class driver, the only driver who's bucking the trend right now, which is the golds are ahead of the silvers. And it goes to show you how the classes have been portioned absolutely brilliantly by our series administrator, Roxanne Marshall, who's always working hard behind the scenes, no doubt about it. And she's an unsung hero of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup. Well, as we do see David Biggerdijk making his way in towards turn number 1. We'll run on through the right-hander. Could this be the lap that sees him extend that pole position a little bit further? We'll have to wait and see, because Connor Craven right now only recently gone on to a lap himself, making his way out to what is turn 4 and 5. We're right now looking to strike back. Checker flag is out, and well, as the checker flag waves, we've got Paul Halliday heading towards the line in a Porsche that I think is not quite going to be on the pace here after that early mistake, and indeed he crawls to the line. It's going to be P17 at best for Paul Halliday. Meanwhile, behind him, we've also got Glenn Humberstone coming on through for ATEC Racing. He crossed the line. He's currently P16. Can he improve? No, he cannot. He stays where he is. But then we do have Ryan Walker coming on through. And as the RW Sim photography driver for Satellite Racing makes his way on through turn number 17, and we won't be taking photographs right now, although he is the series official photographer, but as he makes his way towards the timeline, what's it going to be here for Ryan Walker? Well, it is going to be P7 currently, but can he improve? He's a second down on overall pole. No, that's where he's going to stay, and well, as he makes way through, we've got a bit of time before our next driver comes to the line. That's Mats Strand, and just to let you know, we will be releasing a link midway through the race with regards to voting for your driver of the day. That returns from season 9, and your driver of the day from round 13, our season finale in what was season 9 at Orient Park, was none other than Paul Halliday with 55% of the vote, and congratulations to him on becoming a 2-time driver of the day for season 9. And we'll be announcing the driver of the day from round number 1, of course, during the qualifying session of rounds 2 and 3 in a week's time. But as we see Matt Strand coming to the pits, can't improve any further. Connor Craven, meanwhile, does not improve out there. So David Biggerdijk right now seems to have locked in what will be silver pole position, his first ever pole position as well. A huge achievement for the Britishman, but he makes his way on down for turn number 15 into 16. Will mean while we do look to Daniel Sedgley, and well, as Sedgley comes on through here, doesn't look as though he's improving on this lap so far. What is the best part of 2 minutes of overtime here, so therefore Sedgley I think will be peeling into the pits, and I think that's going to be the same for all the drivers out there at the moment. And that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And for our season opener, well, it's a return to the grid for Patrick Thompson, and it's a return to pole position for the Apex Racing Academy driver on a 46.277. That's golden overall pole. And meanwhile, in the silver class, it is David Biggerdijk who has taken the first silver pole of the season, the privateer, on what has been a stellar lap of 47.95. And as all of our drivers make the way into the pit lane, we'll shortly be going to the grid. But indeed, we have got a fantastic race ahead of us, no doubt about it, as all our drivers get themselves set and ready to go. And we'll just the last couple of drivers now into the pits. But it's been a close qualifying session, and we'll in the end 1/10 was the difference between Patrick Thompson and Corey Lazarus on that front row, and between David Biggerdijk and Connor Craven, it was 300ths in the hunt for silver pole position. But as the circuit falls silent, and indeed the clouds continue to brew over, well, all our drivers now absolutely set and ready to go racing. I think they'll be eager to take a break, but they don't get much of a breather. They get a 5-minute warm-up period in which to be able to take said breather, but after that we will be going to the grid for our first race of the season. As our drivers opt to either stay in the pit lane or make the way out there, Patrick Thompson right now absolutely eager to make his way back out there is the Danishman in the number 29 for Apex Racing Academy. We would like to take this moment to remind you that if you have been enjoying the broadcast over the history of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup, will you be enjoying the broadcast today so far? Do let us know your appreciation by feeling free to subscribe to the YouTube channel or the Twitch channel on which you're tuning into this broadcast, so that way you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcast and racing action brought to you on a weekly basis in the UKSimRacing community, where we meet the Porsche Cup on Thursdays, alternatively the GT3 League as brought by my colleague from Tim Cox Media, Tim Cox himself, on Sundays. On top of that as well, if you want to go a little bit further, well, did you know that UKSimRacing is affiliated with a multitude of companies? And well, with regards to find out a little bit more about how you can support the community via our affiliates. More is the fact that we have a number of companies, including UKSimRacing Coaching, Race Anywhere, and Demon Tweaks in our affiliates pool. And if you do head to our website, that's UKSimRacing.co.uk today, and that website on screen here, all you need to simply do is go to our official Discord, the link in the top right corner of our website screen. You can see the Discord icon there. Join the official UKSimRacing Discord, which is automatically a win for you in the fact that it does mean you're amongst like-minded individuals within the sim racing community. And well, if you ever want to be on the grid for a UKSimRacing event or series, it's a mandatory requirement for you to be part of the Discord, as you do need to be available on the Discord to attend the pre-race driver briefings and also to stay up to the latest information regarding your chosen event or series. But more relevant to this point of conversation is the fact on the UKSimRacing Discord, a number of our affiliates provide discount codes which are only available on the official UKSimRacing Discord. And if you make a purchase using one of those codes, it's a win for you because it puts you in pole position to receive a discount on your purchase, but also it's a win for the wider community because we are a non-profit organisation here at UKSimRacing, and that means that every penny and pound that we make from your affiliate purchase, where it goes into funding future series, including future editions of the Porsche Cup, the GT3 League, and we have got plenty more planned for 2024, including the ongoing MX5 Endurance Series. We've also got other leagues planned, and it's never been a better time to be part of the UKSimRacing community. But as we return to circuit side, it's never been a better time to be on pole for Patrick Thompson, no doubt about that. And well, as he makes his way on through turn 3 into 4 on what will be a second warm-up lap before we do go racing. Of course, a big delay today because we do announce the new affiliation between UKSimRacing and what is Thompson's Coaching, as led and run by none other than this man, Patrick Thompson, and we'll tell you a little bit more about Thompson's Coaching later on in today's broadcast. And as he makes his way on through turns 7, 8 and 9, well, meanwhile we look to James Parker, the man we mentioned earlier, a multi-time gold drivers champion, and indeed in the early days of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup in the opening few seasons, he really was the man to beat, albeit a tough competition every step of the way, no doubt about it. As he makes his way on through turns 7, 8, 9. When he returned to the grid last season, it definitely was a little bit of a learning experience, albeit towards the end of the season he was fighting for top 5s and hunting the podium as well. And well, he'll be looking to take a further step forward today when we get racing very shortly, in the fact that we do know that James Parker is one of those more tactical drivers. He may not be the fastest outright on pace, but he is the fastest driver to finish the race. And that sounds a little bit bewildering, but what we mean by that is in the fact that his consistency and also his ability to pick the right strategy is something that many would absolutely love to have in their own set of accolades as racers. And with James Parker, definitely Mr. Consistent when it comes to the details as he makes his way into turn 14. But as he does so, we also say hello to Aero Ali there in the YouTube chat, who appreciates the shout out from a good number of what is the other people watching the YouTube chat, and well, that is none other than Alistair Pollock there. And well, good luck to you this evening, Alistair. Indeed, to all the newcomers on the grid, best of luck to them, even more so over our regulars, or our veterans we should say, for the simple reason, of course, it's always a daunting day when you return to the grid if you've been out for some time or you're new to the grid and looking to find your way. But that's why this series is so accommodating to drivers old and new. And well, we also say hello there to Closet Sim Racers tuning on DCW Racing, and also to Patrick Falconer, who's tuning in, I do believe, supporting what will be a number of teams, but I think there might be also mentioned there at the gate crash at DCW Racing in at the YouTube chat. But do let us know who you're cheering on, ladies and gentlemen, and who could forget in the YouTube chat as well, Cy Anstey, who said bonk earlier, I think in reference to the contact between the Olympus esports car and what was the car from Apex Racing Academy in the practice session. And we also say hello there to Andrew McGovern, and we'll hope you're all doing well, guys and girls, in the respective chats. But we are only 10 seconds away from going to the grid. Indeed, our first race of the season is just around the corner. 510 horsepower in each and every one of these cars. We've got 21 of them on the grid. You do the quick mathematics and I can tell you that's the best part, unless I'm very much mistaken, and feel free to correct me, but I do believe that is the best part of what is somewhere in the region of about 10,000 plus horsepower, and it's ready to go racing, ladies and gentlemen, as we head to the grid. So as the drivers make their way onto the grid, this is how they line up for our season opener. It is Patrick Thompson who takes pole position overall in the gold class for Apex Racing Academy ahead of Corey Lazarus of Blackout OPR. On row number 2, it's going to be Afonso Suto, the Olympus Esports debutant, who's joined by teammate Daniel Sedji. And then we have Impulse Racing's Philip Hammer starting P5, looking to make it a 5th Drivers' Championship title at the end of the season, ahead of Emil Koopmans, who starts P6 for Spec Simulations. Ryan Walker starts P7 for Satellite Racing. Keep your eyes out for him. He normally makes places early on in the the race, no doubt about it, with James Parker alongside P8 for iRacing. Mats Strand starts P9 for Racelab Esports, and he'll be joined on the 5th row of the grid to complete the top 10 by silver pole sitter and his first pole position of his career, David Biggerdite, the privateer. Conor Craven starts P11 for Olympus Esports, joined by Daniel Weston for DCW Racing. And then we do have David van der Waal for Olympus Esports starting P13, ahead of Alistair Pollock, the privateer. Joe Dutton and Glenn Humberstone make up your 8th row ahead of Paul Halliday and Sean Dobie. But we're going to have to stop there, ladies and gentlemen, because the grid is set and the lights are going on. And what does it do? It's 1 red light, 2 red lights, 3 red lights, 4 red lights, 5 red lights. And it's lights out and away we go for our first race of the season. Season 10 gets underway, and as they roar the way down towards turn 1, Patrick Thompson's had the launch, no doubt about it. Corey Lazarus going defensive, Alfonso Souto and Sergi look to battle their way. The Olympus Esports pair trying to find some space, but they can't do it. But meanwhile, Philip Hammer looks up the inside of Sergi and takes P4 off his rails. They make their way through turn 1 down towards turn 2. But onto the brakes they go, and Sergi battles back on the inside here. It's going to be a bit of contact potentially between them. Not so in the end, they give each other the space, but still 2-1 as they make their way into left hook. And as they do, Sergi gets ahead. Lazarus goes a bit deep, but he covers off the inside running to turn 5. But that's not going to stop Souto from looking up the inside as they make the way on through turn 6. And as they roar the way through Snake, well, Patrick Thompson is gone already. 1 second is the gap after 6 corners. And Alfonso Souto's taken P2 for Olympus Esports. But keep your eyes on Corey Lazarus. And the Kiwi right now is not going to back out. There's no doubt about it. As they roar the way through turn 7, 8, 9. Meanwhile, further back, Conor Craven's got the launch over David Biggerdite, no doubt about it, as he leads the silver class in P10. We'll take a look back at that race start very shortly for Conor Craven, but David Biggerdite in down to P11 now, with Alistair Pollock behind him, gained 2 places overall and 1 in class. And Pollock, one of the bigger gainers in the silver class, he makes his way through turn number 12, but not as big a gainer as iRacing Science. Sean Dobie moved Clicks Racing to officially iRacing Science for this season, and the Scotsman right now making 3 places in the class on the opening few corners. As they roar the way on down towards what will be down towards turn number 14. All the drivers on the charge now. Jordan Ton looking for a potential move here, but not quite able to find it so far. And when he makes his way in to the Virginian corkscrew, right now the wrong stuff driver will just have to wait behind and look for another opportunity as he heads towards the end of the lap. So after 1 lap of races, our drivers roar their way onto a start-finish straight. It's Patrick Thompson who's fallen back into half a second of Alfonso Souto. Corey Lazarus is P3, ahead of Daniel Sergi P4, followed by Philip Hammer P5, Emil Cooper P6, James Parker P7, Ryan Walker P8, Mats Strand P9, and then Conor Craven, your silver leader, P10, ahead of David Biggerdite, who's best of the rest, P11, as they make the way on to another lap. But of course, it's only the second lap of many a 45-minute race. Daniel Weston, meanwhile, out of the car, technical issues with the car before he can even go racing, it would seem. But meanwhile, there's a move there, an exchange between Glenn Humberstone and Alistair Pollock, a swap between what is the 2 teammates, and I do believe it might be the question. Essentially, the iRacing driver opts to move past the Cyan driver, and well, they might have had a little bit of word there. I do believe Pollock is registered as a privateer for this season. He's not racing officially under the team name, but he will be flying the flag for the team. But in the team's championship, he won't be adding any points to their cause. They make the way up towards turn 7, 8, and 9 for the second time of asking. Glenn Humberstone now will have the challenge of trying to pull what is himself and Pollock up to what would be David Biggerdite, and meanwhile behind David van der Waal, well, he's had a bit of a difficult qualifying session. He's not really gained or lost anything at the start of the race, -1 place, but meanwhile one driver's lost their footing. That's Glenn Humberstone, took a trip wide at turn 10. He's going to go defensive versus van der Waal in towards turn 11. Side by side they go, and as they do, well, it's going to be Humberstone gets ahead, but meanwhile, more critically in the battle for the top 5, this is Philip Hammer trying to drag race his way ahead of Daniel Sergi. There was a bit of a move from Sergi initially, but in the drag race out of Oak Tree up towards turn 14, Hammer's got the overspeed, and right now Sergi tucking back in behind, but this could be entirely tactical, to be fair, from Sergi, given the fact that this is a race where they will need to come into the pits for fuel, and therefore Sergi might just be backing off the throttle slightly and saving himself some fuel, so that way he can spend a couple of seconds less in the pits, and that could prove pivotal, enabling him to gain place. Indeed, many of you may recall the number of times places were made or lost by drivers in the pits over Season 9, for the fact that some drivers are able to save the best part of 5-6 seconds in the pit lane by simply fuel saving over the majority of the race. But as they make their way on towards turn number 1, once again we'll look towards the leaders right now. Patrick Thompson under increasing pressure here from Alfonso Souto. Now, to be fair, Thompson might also be doing the same. He might be backing the pace off on fuel saving, and this is what leads to a very interesting question in this point of the race, which is, if you're Souto, do you feel if Thompson is fuel saving, if he's starting to back the pace of the race off, perhaps also trying to save the tyres, do you force the pass and then try to run away, but you know you're going to use up more fuel than your rival and you can lose out in the pits? Or do you also play the game of sit behind, save fuel, save tyres, and just wait for the pit stops. Of course, the problem is you then come into that mindset of you start to fall too far off the pace in terms of your race pace versus your fuel-saving race pace, then you might be starting to think to yourself, I'm being pushed backwards into the drivers behind, and that's what Suto's got to wager right now. Is he running at the right pace based on how he's calculated this race to run in the fuel-saving mode versus his overall race pace to just afford to sit behind Thompson and save some fuel? To be fair, these guys are not backing off. They are running about 95%, but given the gap that Thompson opened up on the open lap, I get the feeling here he might just be trying to back the race pace down to a degree and give himself more strategic variety as they make the way onwards towards race turn number 14. As they charged away on down. Meanwhile, Philip Hammer again close in the tyre, Corey Lazarus, and right now the Impulse Racing driver is starting to move closer and closer to the Blackout OPR driver, and we do wonder whether there could be a move potentially brewing here in the fact that Lazarus right now 1.2 seconds off of what is Suto's car. He's not quite out of arm's reach when it comes to the toe, but he's not in the best of places. Ideally, you want to be within a second to pick up quite a natural toe on the run of the long straights, albeit you'll see that Lazarus will gain to a degree here, but it's not going to be worth as much, and therefore that distant toe right now, Hammer may feel as though if he can get ahead, he can bring the race in a bit closer and bring what will be the top 5 together as we see a car going slowly there. That's Daniel Weston been able to get the DCW racing machine repaired and out of the pits, thankfully, as we're hearing there's an issue now for Guy Kyliao, and we're not quite sure what happened to Kyliao, but hopefully we might see him back on the grid shortly or back out on the circuit. But indeed, it's gone wrong for the wrong stuff driver, and for DCW Racing, it has been a bit of a prickly start to the season, no doubt about it, as right now Weston's going to have to try and step aside from all drivers coming over in, as that's Ryan Walker of a lock up there, I think on the outside line, just having to take a bit of evasive action, but also defending from Strand and attacking Parker at the same time. Well, that's multitasking at its finest there from the Scotsman, as he makes his way on through Snake and onwards he goes, but as he does so, we take a look back at the race start and what exactly happened between Craven and Biggerdike for the lead of the silver class. So we ride on board here with Connor Craven for Olympus Esports as the lights went out, and well, you can see that Craven getting a much better launch, and even before they made it into second gear, he got a nose ahead, and when he made his way in towards turn number 1, we're looking for position here and decided to opt to go to the outside. We take a look at the exterior camera, and Craven daring to dream to go around the outside of Strand. Well, that is ballsy, there's no doubt about it, and Craven in the end being made to pull back to a degree, and Biggerdike right there with him, but Biggerdike definitely getting caught up with a lot of wheel spin at the start, and Craven getting the perfect launch to start off his day, and also still looking for the battle with Strand into turn number 4, but in the end backing out of it, knowing that inside line 2 does not go into 1 from the left into right. As we return into your live at Racing Pictures, ladies and gentlemen, attacking on down into the corners they go, and will Voldemort UK in the Twitch chat explaining, and also Tom Weston in the YouTube chat explaining what happened to Daniel Weston, which seems to be some sort of technical issue with regards to being allowed to go on to the grid, apparently, and well, that's very unfortunate for Daniel Weston in the fact that he did have a good qualifying session. In fact, he was one of the finest qualifiers in the silver class, but not to be his day today. Meanwhile, Philip Ham up the inside there of Lazarus as we look back to the lead group here in the live racing action as they make the way into lap number 5, and well, Lazarus losing not just 1 but 2 places, also losing out to Daniel Sedgley, but I get the feeling there that Lazarus might have decided just to simply step aside and let both his rivals go, knowing that fighting with one of them is only going to cost him time to the drivers ahead, and indeed fighting right now is not of the essence. That's later in the race, and well, meanwhile, looking back into the silver class here, Joel Dutton not making any gains or losses in the opening stages of today, and indeed you can see the gains on what is the left hand side of your screen, overall gains that is, from all of our drivers, and one of the biggest gainers out there being what is Paul Halliday, and well, Guy Kyliao was one of the bigger gainers originally until that unfortunate retirement. But Joel Dutton tries to push on. He's looking to make his first gain of the day for the wrong stuff versus Paul Halliday, who's gained 3 places in class, 3 overall, and I think Paul Halliday is going to be happy with that. What he won't be happy about is the fact he's got Dutton bearing down and breathing hard on his neck here as they make their way on down in towards Oak Tree Hairpin, and Dutton taking a look at the inside of the Luxembourgish driver. 9, it's too fast to go on the brakes. These Porsche Cup cars, indeed, you need to be within about 2 tenths if you want to make a lunge on the brakes, given the risk of locking up. There being no anti-lock braking system, nor there being any traction control of these cars. Indeed, it's old school modulation from the driver and the driver alone as they roar their way on down the back straight. He'll get close and we ride on board the nose cone of what is Joel Dutton, read the nose bumper we should say, but as the wrong stuff driver looks to look for a move, he can't quite find it still, and it's just being made to wait his turn. But meanwhile, speaking of moves abounding, there is Owen Halliday having to right now give way to Alistair Pollock, and Pollock makes his way up a position and takes what is P6 in the silver class, P16 overall, as they make the way on down through the left into right here. It turns at with 15, 16, and through 17 he goes. And as Halliday now settles back in behind Pollock, it'll be the 8-Tip Racing driver's opportunity to try and break away. But will he be able to do so? That'll be the challenge. But meanwhile, further behind, you can see Daniel Weston having a little bit of nip and tuck with Craig Shield. Weston is a lap down, but he's trying to unlap himself here for DCW Racing. And well, he is the best part of 3 laps down. Given what happens, we see a lock up there for Owen Halliday into turn 1. Weston around the outside, and well, going the long way around it to unlap himself. But right now, I think he and Craig Shield are going to be enjoying what is this little pseudo fight, if you will. Albeit Shield will also be mindful of the fact that blue flags will be waving to Weston, and Weston will now need to break away as quickly as possible. But meanwhile, oh goodness me, and that's some early drama. Mats Strand is into the barriers, it would seem, and that's on the run from turn 6A to 7. And the Race Lab Esports driver has gone around, but what exactly has happened? He's had to tow to the pit. We have a replay to explain the story. This is coming through turn number 6, then going into the snake, and then through the left hand of the car. Has gone straight on for Strand. Now, was that an impact to the apex curve there at 6A? As the snake bitted him hard, I get the feeling it may have. We'll take another look back, but from the onboard camera. And the car just falling off the curb there, and well, there was no different line to what Ryan Walker did in front. So Strand taking his normal line, but I think a fall with the suspension of the car there, and the car just refused to go left when he needed to. It just went straight to the barrier. And for Strand, all that was an absolute nightmare moment, and now he's in the pit lane, and well, that could be his race over today. We'll have to wait and see. But with 10 minutes complete, we've still got the best part of what is there. If my maths is correct, the best part of 35 minutes to go. And as we can see, James Parker right now in at P7. He's got the growing pressure of Ryan Walker behind, and Walker, I think now that he's lost the pressure from the car behind, he's now able to focus his energy on just attacking Parker. And these two, the best part of 4 seconds off of the back of Emil Koopman, so they make the way on through turn number 1. But as they do so, we take a look to what is the class positions, I do believe, on the left hand side of the screen, and there they are to show you how our drivers line up in the respective classes right now with the overall position overlaid on top. And well, as we can see, Thompson still leading gold, Craven still leading silver, and those gaps right now could not be tighter at the front of both classes. Indeed, everywhere you look, there's a bit of battling going on, even if it is in the mid-pack of the gold class here. And Parker and Walker enjoying their own little battle. And Ryan Walker, of course, absolutely excited to get back on the grid after missing season 9. And well, back on the grid for season 10. We're pleased to see it. And he looks for a move there into turn number 7. Well, you don't normally go too wide on through the S's sequence of 7, 8, and 9 here at VIR. And if you're to do so, that requires both you and your rival to show each other the space and both back off the pace. I mean, Walker, they're just trying to get into the head of his rival as they make their way in towards turns 11 and 12. And as they do so, Mion Juduton looking to chase after Paul Halliday as the wrong stuff driver gets closer and closer, but no cigar this time around as he makes his way onto the brakes going through the hairpin. You can see there Halliday just hitting the apex curve at a slightly off angle and setting the front into the car. Duton a bit eager to get on the throttle and runs a bit wide there, and opting to see just how wide he can push those track limits. And well, it's not going to haunt him right now, but it could haunt him later in the race. That will count as a 1x. And remember, they've got 24 instant points they can play with, but as soon as they get the 24th one, it's a drive-through penalty, and nobody wants that particularly towards the end of the race. And those track limit penalties, I can tell you, in a number of endurance races last season, number of drivers writing on the final 3 to 4 laps, they had only 1 or 2 instant points to spare, and they didn't want any contact, because of course a contact with another driver, it's worth 4 instant points, and that is going to be potentially a race in tatters. But meanwhile, a lead in tatters. Patrick Thompson right now under pressure, and that is Alfonso Suto right behind as they make the way on through turn number 1 in towards NASCAR Bend they go. And well, as they do so in towards the break-ins over turn number 3, and Suto right now continuing to hold on to this lead, not by much of a margin, and then again dictating the pace gradually. He'll know how to do so. But I think right now, with the fact that we do have the best part of what is your top 6 separated by only 2.5 seconds, you can see them all there in the single camera shot. Everyone absolutely eager right now to make some progress, and I think many of our drivers are wondering whether Thompson is just running too slow a pace here, and perhaps they're wanting to push the wick up a little bit more. But Thompson will have his own idea, and he can of course use track position to park the car and slow the pace of the race down, but at the same time sort of slide down too much or put himself in the wrong place at corner exit, and he could suddenly lose not just 1 but indeed at multiple places. All that's the best part of 5 places. And we see Suter getting closer and closer there through the hairpin as they make the way onto the back straight. no change at the moment as they build up through the throttle, and indeed ambient lights starting to go down. The headlights are going on in the cars as they roar their way inwards towards turn number 14, in towards the roller coaster. Meanwhile, off camera, we have had a change of position between Watts Joel Dutton and Paul Halliday, and in fact a major off track from Paul Halliday has dropped him behind not just Dutton but also Pollock, and we'll take a look back at that very shortly because it's a nasty surprise for Paul Halliday and not a welcome one. We'll get you the full inside story with regards to that as our drivers weave their way on down turn at number 16, and right now it's the Danishman who leads. He's got the growing pressure of the Portuguese behind, but meanwhile, oh my goodness, there's a free wide there going on through where it's turn number 14. David Biggerdine taking a trip to the grass. Now, did he outbrake himself into roller coaster, or was there more to the story than meets the eye? Because Craven holds the lead in the silver class still, and meanwhile, Glenn Humbersdown now sneaks on through for P2 in the silver class. They make the way on around here, and we look back to the overall standings, and as they do, there's also been a move for what is P5 overall in the form of Emil Koopmans taking Corey Lazarus, albeit Lazarus off circuit from what I'm hearing in my ear from other track observers, so therefore some surprises out there, no doubt about it. But what exactly is happening, that's the big question, and well, we can give you the story on David Biggerdine, and here it is. This was only moments ago, under braking into 14, and Biggerdine missed his braking zone, locking up the brakes. Oh, goodness me, and that was very terse there, as we can see that Craven and Van der Waals, the two Olympus Esports teammates, having to negotiate each other just as much the way with David Biggerdine being unable to do so, but that could have been team contact, and the last instant you want is with your teammate above all else. And then what exactly happened to Corey Lazarus only a lap later? Well, this is making its way into turn number 1, I do believe, and Lazarus just locking up, going straight on, and what you can see there with the grass depressing away from the road, Lazarus having to gradually, very sensitively rejoin the road, but doing so eventually. And we return into your live racing pictures. So a bit of drama there from two drivers, just getting a little bit eager into the braking zones. And well, now that we are the best part of, we're 16 minutes into this race, of course, tyre consumption is now starting to accumulate quite rapidly. These tyres can be made to last the best part of 45 minutes, but they're in their prime for only the best part of 15 minutes, 20 at a push. And therefore, I think all the drivers right now just trying to manage the life of the tyres. Meanwhile, off camera, well, David Van der Waals has moved ahead of Connor Craven. The Olympus Esports teammates have swapped places for P9 overall. Now it's the gold driver ahead of the silver class leader. But as Patrick Thompson makes his way out the final corner, still being chased, still being hounded by Suto, Hammer and Sechi. This top four trying to break away. Emil Koopmans, the rear gunner in this group, in P5. And well, right now, there's no pressure on Corey Lazarus behind, with Lazarus being 4.7 seconds back. But don't count Lazarus out. We know that he can catch up very quickly to these groups. There's a reason why he has finished in the top three inside the Gold Drivers Championship time and time again in the seasons. And well, meanwhile, as we look back to Ryan Walker, still trying to find his way on past what is there, James Parker, and we jump forward the Scotsman from Satellite Racing as he heads in towards turn for Bray. As he makes his way on to the brakes here, through the left-hander he goes, and well, no real overtaking opportunity available to Walker at the moment. And one of the big challenges, of course, in these Porsche Cup machines is the fact that you really do need to get extremely close to look for a movement VIR, and well, being in the dirty out of another car does not help, given the fact these cars have very limited aerodynamics on them. They do have the bigger rear wing, of course, but beyond that, very little additional bodywork done to the car, and therefore it means that when you're running this close in the dirty air, you feel it tenfold in terms of turning at high speed. And Walker right now just backing on the throttle slightly there, making sure not to be caught out by the dirty air, any understeer that could be introduced into the car as he makes his way down into the div, will breaking his way up into Oak Tree Corner, and through the right they go. Corey Lazarus only 1.2 seconds ahead of this pair, so therefore Lazarus now falling back into the clutches, and that's going to pull them a bit closer to the likes of Emil Koopmans so they can stay with Lazarus. We'll have to see whether that's how it'll be. As meanwhile, Van der Waals having an off-track of what was, I do believe there, the run through the hairpin at turns 10 and 11. And with the Olympus Esports driver, now as he brings himself back together on the exit of 12, he's had to release the position to Connor Craven, but not having the strongest race so far, but he's making places gradually. I think he'd be hoping to make a few more places as of yet as he makes his way uphill in towards turn number 14. But as he does so, into the pits comes two of our lead pack drivers, Philip Hammer in, Emil Koopmans as well. And well, we did have Sean Dobie coming only a lap ago, James Parker in as well. So therefore it looks like it's the first pit stop of the day. And well, that's going to be on the minds of many a driver here, in the fact that fuel is going to be running quite critical at this point. But the fact that Patrick Thompson's still out there, well, that might be a sign of just how much fuel saving is going into this race from Thompson and the drivers behind him, and how the pace of the race has really been dropped away by Thompson as he makes his way through turns at 4 and 5. pretty much got the whole field coming into the pits right now outside of what is our top 5. And will Philip Hammer out of the pit, so is Emil Koopmans. James Parker also making his way on out. But as our leading pack of drivers stay out there yet to take a pit stop, all eager to go one lap longer and give themselves a little bit more longevity in the race. Will Thompson roaring his way on through the SS sequence, and as he does so, we look to Sean Dobie, the first driver to pit. He pitted 1 lap earlier than everybody else in the recent set of pit stops. And well, will this help the ATT Racing Sign driver out? Well, given the fact he's making his way through Hog Pen Corner at the moment, I don't think so. So therefore, I think Sean Dobie's got it to do it the hard way, which is going to have to find those places. As we have confirmation of retirement of Mats Strand, also Guy Kylie out. Daniel Weston's still out there 3 laps down and giving it everything, which is great to see, of course. And the drivers roar their way onwards towards what is turn number 1. Into the brakes they go, and as they do so, will Sean Dobie there around the outside of Craig Shield, who's recently come out of the pits. And well, I think Shield opts in there to let his teammate for ATT Racing Sign go, and in doing so, being smart with the position of the car and not opting to cause any changes whatsoever between the 2 teammates. As Patrick Thompson weaves his way on through the final corner into the pits, he comes at Apex Racing Academy, and this could be a close one. So Suto deciding to not stay out there, but to come on in. Seji doing the same. And well, if there are any questions about the one-stop today, and many of you may remember the one-stop at RM Park that caught out so many drivers in our season finale in Season 9, nobody opting to do the one-stop by the looks of things, unless they're going to make the fuel tank last the best part of what will be 24 minutes plus the final lap. It would be very on the fringe, no doubt about it. And as we do say hello there to Meek in the YouTube chat, who says, imagine if a yellow was thrown at right now, goodness me, that would throw an absolute spanner in the works of many a driver. And well, those who worked it out on strategy would not be too best pleased about it, no doubt about it, but that's the way it goes sometimes in racing. And as Patrick Thompson makes his way up to speed, meanwhile Philip Hammer on the inside, and Hammer in the end is going to go for the move. He's going to make it work on strategy here. It's going to be Suto who battles him around the outside, but as they make their way through, a yellow flag is called literally at that moment, and Philip Hammer, well, gets his way ahead just about before a yellow flag is called. And well, just in time for all the drivers out of the pits minus Ryan Walker, who's still being serviced. And well, the car right now for Ryan Walker is still in there. It's been the best part of 45 seconds stationary, and I believe some work being done to Ryan Walker's car, but I believe a caution has been thrown. And we'll try to understand the reasons for that. I don't think it's for a car out of circuit. I think it might be to mix up the race near that caution has been thrown today, and we'll have to wait and see what exactly that entails as a result. But that's going to bunch the field back together, no doubt about it, and it will completely unexpected for our drivers and here in the commentary booth as well. But for our drivers, it is definitely going to be one of those challenges whereby with what would be a yellow flag being called, it's going to bring the pack back together. And will that compromise anybody's strategy, or will it now put this race potentially on the fringes that if drivers conserve enough fuel, they could get to the checker flag on a one-stop? If so, that is going to lead to a huge gambit from our drivers. And well, as we do see there, Thomas Cove asking the YouTube chat, hey, how did you know a yellow would be thrown at? Well, Meek there, either a psychic or knowing something we don't. But as our drivers make their way in towards turns 11 and 12 here, well, right now everyone will be holding position, but at the same time as well, we'll be looking to close up as soon as possible. We're up with the safety car waiting at what will be the exit of the pit lane and going into turn number 1. And well, this is a surprise for many a driver, and for some, perhaps not the most welcome one, but we'll have to wait and see how they all adapt to it. We do see all drivers roaring the way on down the back straight, and already Patrick Thompson catching up to what will be the back of the safety car now. And when the safety car will be making its way through turn 1, he'll gradually close up to it. The status of play here after what is half the race distance in terms of time, 22.5 minutes complete, 22.5 minutes still remaining. Patrick Thompson is your leader. He's been leading since pole position and on lap number 1. Philip Hammer P2 for Impulse Racing, behind the Apex Racing Academy driver. Hammer fights his way through from a P5 start. Alfonso Suto P3, that's where he started, and that's where he is currently after taking P2, but beaten on strategy by Philip Hammer by the most slender of margins going into turn 1, with Hammer coming in a lap earlier and using the undercut to his advantage. Daniel Seji P4, the Olympus Esports pair P3, P4 right now. Emil Koopmans P5 for Effect Simulations, 1 place gained and a strong start to his day. Emil Koopmans, the Dutchman. Corey Lazarus meanwhile sits in P6, a little bit further behind after a major off track which cost him dear. And the blackout OPR driver, I think, frustrated that off track, which has put him outside the top 5 fight for some time, but now he'll have an opportunity to get back into that fight. And then James Parker, P7 behind. That's your leading top 7 of gold drivers. You then have your silver leader, O'Connor Craven, who took the lead off of David Biggerdine on the launch into turn number 1. And the Olympus Esports driver has not looked back since then, with David van der Waals P9 behind. And then you have David Biggerdine, your second place silver driver, P10 behind the gold driver Van der Waals, who on his debut is picking up place in the race after a difficult qualifying session. Biggerdine with a slow start, losing 1 place in class, but still holding on to P10. And then you've got Joel Duton at P11, third place silver driver right now, with Alistair Pollock behind him. And Alistair Pollock on his debut, holding firm in P4 in the silver class, 2 places gained overall. And with the privateer having a strong showing today, ahead of Glenn Humberstone, who completes the silver top 5 there, P13 overall just behind him. And the ATT Racing driver also gaining some places ahead of Paul Halliday. And with Paul Halliday, of course, having a difficult qualifying session, but finding a lot more places out of the circuit as time has gone on. And the same could be said, for Craig Shield, and also what was Owen Halliday behind P15, P16. Sean Dobie, meanwhile, difficulties in the early stage of the race and an off-track costing the ATT Racing sign driver Deer. He's down in P17. And then we have Ryan Walker with an incredibly long pit stop, 52 seconds. Well, with that pit stop of the Satellite Racing driver, that puts him P18, but I wonder whether that pit stop was to put on a fresh set of tyres, and if so, Ryan Walker right now could be the fastest driver out on circuit when we do resume the race. And of course, we are under cautions at the moment, but Ryan Walker there, should it have been a change of tyres as well as fuel going in the car, that could be a gamble that could suddenly pay off if he can find his way past the silvers. Daniel Weston, meanwhile, P19 for DCW Racing, and will still 3 laps down. I don't think he's going to be allowed to unlap himself 3 times over, so therefore he's still going to be out of position, but he will be at the last of your runners with Ryan Walker behind, albeit a place up. And then we've had the retirements of Mats Strand and Guy Kylie, 21 starters, 19 drivers still in the race. And well, as we do see some more drivers into the pits, and well, that is going to be Alfonso Suto and also Daniel Secchi both coming on in. And well, as they do, the Olympus Esports drivers, this might be what would be to have a quick splash and dash of fuel, so that way they don't have to run the risk of making a second pit stop. But could this also be what might be a change of tyres going on, because they'll put themselves to the back, they'll put themselves to the back of what will be the field, but at the same time as well, they may actually find themselves in a more comfortable position going later on into this race. Well, if so, we'll have to wait and see what exactly happens, but definitely a surprise and an interesting one to be certain about it. But for all the drivers here, it definitely is going to be a gamble strategy. So Suter comes out P16, Daniel Secchi at P17. So right now, they've both gambled on it. Will this work out to their favour? We'll have to see, because we do have to do at least 2 laps behind the automated iRacing safety car, and well, that means we are on the 2nd lap right now. But trust us when we say next time we come around, we'll very likely be going green flag racing, and when we do, it's definitely going to be an absolute charge to the finish, and well, absolutely fantastic racing is set to come about, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt about it. And well, how will this caution that's been thrown into the mix things up for our drivers? That will be the big question that awaits them, as the safety car lights are still on currently, and well, strategy really coming into play as we do look to, and we'll be seeing how this all plays out. And as we look to the blimp camera here very briefly, well, a wonderful view from up and high, all the field together, and David van der Waals right now moving up to P6, in fact should be P7 there, I think, just getting ahead of teammate Connor Craven. I think trying to say to his teammate, look, when we go racing once again, you've got to be ready for me, because I want to come on through. And we'll have to wait and see whether that's how he decides to go for it, or whether he tucks in behind and just simply tries to make the move later on in the race, given their respective pace. They've been both very close on pace all the way through, no doubt about it, but how will it play out between the 2 of them? That's going to be the target question for him, and indeed for his teammate. And I think they will try to negotiate their way around one another, but of course it is going to be a bit of a changing situation when you've both got rivals ahead and behind you, and therefore you're going to need to try and find a way to get past one another without costing each other any time whatsoever. And well, as the drivers make the way Returns 11 and 12. I do see the safety car lights are off there at a distance, and well, as daylight is gradually falling away from this Virginia International Raceway circuit, and we look a little bit further down the order there as the field makes its way through. Ryan Walker already back up to P15 ahead of Alfonso Suto and also Daniel Seggi, and that could also add a bit of complexity into the works. And Suto and Seggi, we should point out, only taking what was a 5-second pit stop stationary time each, so therefore both drivers there, by the looks of things, going for a quick splash and dash of fuel, nothing more and nothing less. So therefore just taking the safety approach, which is to enable them to get to the end of the race on full attack in terms of not having to do any fuel saving, and that could benefit them, to be fair. If they can find their way through the running order, then they will find themselves in a much more comfortable position at come at the end of the race, in terms they won't be compromised on fuel or limited in terms of the pace they can deploy. But as our drivers make the way in towards the roller coaster, well, that safety car right now being allowed to pull away, and Patrick Thompson will be the driver who very shortly gets us back underway of the race. The safety car lights are still on at the moment, but surely they will be going off soon, given the fact we're coming down into Hogpen. And as our drivers make the way on down, well, we do look to the dashboard for Patrick Thompson. He'll be the one who restarts this race, and well, he'll be the one to dictate when we do go green flag racing. But in fact, the safety car staying out for another lap there, and well, that is going to eat even more race time up, and that is very unfortunate because we have already had 2 laps behind the safety car. David Biggerdine into the pits as well, so deciding to use this as an opportunity to take a fuel stop. But I think many of our drivers here will be very eager to go racing. We also see into the pits Ryan Walker again into the pits. So whatever happened the first time around, perhaps it was a speeding penalty that he picked up on the way into the pit entry, perhaps not slowing down before the pit limiter line. But either way, as he makes his way on down pit lane, well, Ryan Walker is going to be making one more pit stop than everybody else. In fact, an excessively long pit stop and then an extra pit stop today. He's going to have the longest time in the pits of anybody out there, and indeed it is a very quick splash and dash with 4.5 seconds, and then he'll be going green flag very well. In fact, he'll be going back to yellow flag racing as he leaves the pit lane. David Biggerdine in the pits, having a longer pit stop here. I suspect that's the tyres. Glenn Humberstone the same, opting to go for tyres here, and these two gambling on the fact that with the pace of what is the safety car being so slow around here, they'll be able to come out of the back of the field, but they'll have fresh tyres to operate with. And well, Humberstone's going to get ahead of David Biggerdine, and Biggerdine with the biggest gamble of everybody by coming into the pits and just sat stationary at the moment. Well, not quite sure what's happened to David Biggerdine, but we hope to see something happen with the car soon. Hopefully it'll get underway, but this is not a happy day for many a driver. And the lights are off the safety car now, so it does mean the safety car is in at the end of this lap. And well, with that in mind, it does now mean, as our drivers all bunch up together, we still do have the best part of what is 2/3 a lap to go, and we're only going to have it out the 15 minutes remaining, the best part of what will be and probably about 13 minutes of racing here, given the pace of the safety car. So we have lost a bit of time, but it has put the strategy on a precipice, and those drivers who stayed out after only 1 pit stop, they'll have enough fuel to get to the end, but will they be gasping for little squirts of fuel right at the end versus the drivers who've come on in? We'll have to wait and see, but definitely this is going to serve to shake things up, and it's the first time we've seen a caution in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup as far as my memory can serve. Indeed, the history from covering the series over the best part of what has been the last 6 seasons, and we'll have to wait and see whether this marks a change of pace for a good number of drivers. But Patrick Thompson right now, well, no, he's got to nail the restart here. He nailed it at the start, going into turn 1 on lap number 1, and well, theory would say he's going to nail it once again. So it won't be a standing start, it'll be a rolling restart, and it'll be single at final as well, and Patrick Thompson will be the one to dictate when we go after the safety car passes the safety car line. But as all our drivers begin to group together, we look on board at Conor Craven here, the silver class leader right now. I think he'll be feeling increasingly confident with David Biggerdine all the way down in P18 after taking an extended pit stop. And well, with that, the Olympus Esports driver does have Joel Duton at 2 places behind him. He's got teammate David Van der Waal, who is in at P7, who I think will be eager to get on past his teammate. But Craven, I think, will also take a little bit of solace in the fact that he does have a sizable advantage of what is a couple of places over Duton, and also he does seem to have the natural pace advantage here. And could this be an Olympus Esports winning the silver class on his Olympus Esports debut in the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Series? Of course, he's raced under the banner in the GT3 League, but with it being his first ever race in the Porsche Cup car in this series, well, Craven could definitely be starting off his season on a perfect beginning, and what could that entail later on in the season? All that and more is going to be answered now in what is the best part of 12 minutes of the final lap remaining as our drivers make the way on down. And as they do, we're going to take a quick sip of water before the restart gets underway. As the safety car peels into the pits. Thompson now will set the pace as he heads onto the start-finish line straight. And when will he go? You can see Hammer very close behind, looking to the inside. Thompson covering off. The whole field are bunching up here, and it's away we go once again. The restart's underway. Thompson takes his time, and as they do, they make the way on down towards turn number 1, and Thompson heads into the braking zone here. But look behind, as Corey Lazarus looking around the outside of Emil Koopmans into turn 1. Hammer's home to go defensive, and meanwhile further back, Craig Schill making some attacking moves here versus Owen Halliday, but he's got the contention of what is Afonso Souto, who tries to part the seas between the two of them. Owen Halliday goes a bit deep into turn 1, holds the inside into turn 2. Souto's going to go around the outside here into 3, but Craig Schill right now just holding position. A little bit of contact there, I think netco contact between Owen Halliday and Afonso Souto, but in the end they both survive it. Meanwhile, Daniel Sechi now trying to go outside to inside through left hook, does exactly that and moves on through, and that is a huge bump in the road. They've made the way past, not to insult Owen Halliday, but the fact they need to clear those silver drives as quickly as possible. Souto here looking on the inside run through the King of 6A, going into turn number 7, can't quite find it versus Craig Schill. And as we said earlier, if they can make their way past these silver drivers, then right now we could be looking at 2 drives that are going to be the fastest out there as this race goes on and on in towards those final 5 minutes. But as they make the way upwards in towards Oak Tree Hairpin, Afonso Souto right now looking up the inside here, and we'll go in for the move versus Craig Schill, and that is going to be a quick move, but he's also going to keep the door nice and open. Zone Halliday goes wide. Ryan Walker meanwhile to take evasive action to the grass there in the rear of the picture, and as they make the way on down the back straight, it's 3 wide for a brief moment. Owen Halliday seeing the reverse Moses manoeuvre play out in front of his eyes, as that's going to be what he's getting the Humberstone powering away, but Walker right now running out of straight line speed as Daniel Weston trying to unlap himself there in P19, getting ahead of what is none other than Sean Dovey as they enter the brakes, and Walker in the end still 2 wide versus oh goodness me, it's drama as it's cold tyres and cold brakes. Walker then not slightly wide behind Halliday, and also off the circuit when Glenn Humberstone and Sean Dovey, Walker and Halliday in further contact as Walker tries to rejoin on the exit of the roller coaster. Well, it's definitely a roller coaster ride, but not a happy one for these drivers, as meanwhile we look back up towards the front of the field, and David van der Waals is under pressure from Joel Duton as they head on to what is lap number 17. Duton looking around the outside, and right now Van der Waal is attacked as rear gunners. Meanwhile up the inside sneaks Alistair Pollock. He goes for P2 in the silver class, and he finds it into turn 1. It's an absolutely clean cut move from the Briton, and he makes it count, and well, what a way to kick off his debut round of race here in the Porsche Cup, and the fact that Pollock right now could be on course for a P2 as a minimum in the silver class, and he could even chase down the race win by the end of it. We've still got 10 minutes to go, and as they make the way on through turns 4 and 5 and on towards the snake of 6 to 6A they go, it's the perfect time to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, that voting for your driver of the day is now open, and the link for voting for your driver of the day is available in your respective chat, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. It doesn't matter, it's there. It's a quick and easy Google form, 3 clicks, and you'll be able to go for your driver of the day, and we'll let you know who the winner of the driver of the day votes were midway through qualifying in what will be rounds 2 and 3 in a week's time. And those votes of course close at midnight this coming Sunday, on what is Sunday the 7th of April. But as our drivers make the way on through, better not cast your vote just yet for the simple reason, ladies and gentlemen, we've still got plenty of racing to come here. Indeed, with a short distance for the second stint of the race. Right now, all the drivers here absolutely foaming at the mouth in order to take more places. Speaking of places being taken, Souto looking for the move here versus Pollock, but he can't quite find it as Pollock goes defensive battles on the outside. And as the Pollock looking around the outside here, but runs wide, so does Van der Waals, and as they both go very wide, when they're taking the trip to the grass, they'll rejoin. But Pollock losing all the places gained, his hard-earned places have disappeared, and Van der Waals rejoins just behind him. As meanwhile, you can see there Tom Weston, in fact Daniel Weston I should say, enjoying a race, a very interesting race. In fact, he's still 3 laps down, but unlapping himself time and time again. And as our drivers make the way onwards towards turn number 1, more well, David Biggerlike at the back of this pack now looking for an opportunity to try and find some more places after having to come into the pit for that extended pit stop. We don't know reason why, but what we do know is that he's got a golden opportunity to try and recover the place he's lost after being in P2 on the silver class for so long. And as he makes his way on through turn at number 1, his first time with Craig Schill for P5 in the silver class, or P13 overall as he heads on to the anchors. But into left-hander he goes, and as he does so, not forthcoming at the moment. But meanwhile, speaking of places forthcoming, there's a change of places there for Emil Koopmans and Corey Lazarus. Lazarus gaining the place there of the Dutchman, that does the New Zealander. And as he makes his way through turns 7, 8 and 9, with light continuing to dwindle away here. Indeed, ambient light, a premium now it would seem, and those headlights glowing ever brighter. Well, how exactly was the move made, I hear you ask? Well, we'll come to that very shortly, as we go Alfonso Souto looking for the move here on Conor Craven. Craven immediately stepping aside there into Oak Tree, hairpin, not wanting to hold up his gold class teammate, and boy, it's definitely been a gold class performance from where's Conor Craven, the silver leader, as they make the way down the back straight. Going slow there, Sean Dobie a lap down now, and will Dobie having a nightmare restarts this race after a major off track, and will Souto carrying on his way, chasing after Parker. 2 seconds up the road, but meanwhile your race leader Patrick Thompson still under pressure from Philip Hammer. And as we like to always say, there's two things that are inevitable in any of these races. The first one is the race has got to reach the checkered flag at some point, and the other is that Philip Hammer's not on pole. He'll be looking to cover through the field and chase for the race win all the way to the very end. It's inevitable, and that's exactly what you're seeing here as the top two make the way onto another lap. 3 seconds clear of Corey Lazarus in P3. Oh, it seems to be a two-horse race for the win today. And will you be placing your bets behind Thompson or Hammer? It's too close to call here. One of them is a 4-time defending champion in the gold class. Meanwhile, the other has returned to the grid after being 3 seasons away, and well, the Apex Racing Academy driver right now is the latter. Meanwhile, Hammer is the former, and Thompson right now has got the biggest pressure on his back that any driver leading a race here could ask for, in the fact that he does have the biggest Hall of Famer in the series right on his heels. But as they make the way through turns 4 and 5, Thompson not showing any signs of wilting under the pressure, keeping his head down, carrying on, and with 6 minutes on the clock plus the final lap to go, can he hold on just a little bit longer will be the question. Well, as we continue to wonder how that answer will come. Meanwhile, the big question we do also have was what happened a little bit earlier to Corey Lazarus versus Emil Koopmans, and here's the replay. Well, it was a mistake there for Emil Koopmans. You just saw the tail end of it where he ran wide coming out of turn 4 into 5. So Koopmans making a mistake, battling side by side through Snaker 6 and 6A, but Lazarus having the overspeed and the confidence to attack and make it too wide, and that's how the Blackout OPR driver moved up into P3 in the gold class and overall. As we return to your live racing pictures once again. Meanwhile, looking back today with Big Ike as he continues to try and charge his way on through. He's found his way past Craig Schill recently, who was P13 or P5 in the silver class, and now hunting after David van der Waals. But the question many of you will be asking, how did he exactly make the move versus Craig Schill? Well, we do have a quick replay to explain the story. Was only moments ago coming down to Oak Tree Corner, and Big Light looking up the inside. Shield, I think, not expecting the move to come from that far back, but Big Light confidence on the brakes and going all in there in the number 14, and the Englishman making it count. You can see they're pulling off race line immediately in order to make sure that Shield did not gain a significant toe down the back straight, and in the end doing just enough, the privateer, in order to confirm the position. So as we return up once again to live pictures and no more replays for the time being, we can see a little bit of a cacophony on the start for this straight here, as Daniel Weston right now, after unlapping himself from a few drivers only moments ago, now being relapped once again and put to being 3 laps down. But a good number of his silver peers with those blue flags waving. But meanwhile, off the road, that is Paul Halliday, who's had a trip to the grass at turn 1, and an old Pointers driver, after being up into what was P3 in the silver class, now falling back down. There's Big Ike on the inside. It's going to be squeezed the apex into NASCAR bend, but it's going to be Big Ike who forces the door open, and Halliday right now trying to go too wide through left hook into the right. But in the end, who's going to count on top? Big Ike's going to give him the space, but the thing is that Big Ike's got the widest circumference in which to get the power down. Halliday has to be more sensitive to the throttle, and it's David Big Ike who makes the place count for P4 in the silver class and P11 overall, as they make the way on the run on through the S's. And as they do, well, meanwhile, we look back up to James Parker, who right now has got the pressure of Alfonso Souto right behind him. As we ride on board and look back from the rear of the 888 racing car, the 120 here from the United Kingdom under pressure on the Portuguese. And what they've made the way on the middle of the road here is Parker, and we'll try to make it so as wide as possible, give Souto a dilemma to work with. But Souto's going to provide us with an answer to that dilemma, which is he's going to look up the inside into roller coaster, at least the start of it. And Parker in the end not quite able to stay fully alongside for the right-hander switchback as they make the way downhill now and into turn 15. And Parker in the end losing the place, and Souto absolutely coming charging on through. And as they make the way on through, where it's turn number 16 to 17. Well, right now onto another lap they go, onto lap number 21, and the next target for Olympus Esports drive will be none other than Emil Koopmans as they head towards the timeline. Koopmans is 3 seconds up the road, but then again, I think the one thing he'll be concerned about is the fact that the Portuguese driver right now is absolutely blazing it out there in terms of pace, much like the brake discs on the rear of the FX Simulations Porsche. We saw them glowing red hot there under braking into turn 1, and well, the Dutchman here chased after Corey Lazarus, but can he get close enough, he'd ought to be able to look for a move here, given the fact that Lazarus seems to be keeping her arms reach just for now. We'll have to wait to see. Your leaders, meanwhile, the gap between Thompson and Hammer has expanded up to 1.4 seconds. I think Thompson may have just found an edge, particularly over the last lap where Hammer lost 0.6 of a second in a single lap. Could have been a small mistake from Hammer. You know, Hardy's had to push to chase down Thompson. Patrick Thompson right now could be on course to return to winning ways on his return to the grid after a few seasons out. But as the drivers make the way on through and in towards what is turn number 11 and 12, going on through the Oak Tree hairpin once again. Meanwhile, we look back to Alistair Pollock, who right now is on the attack versus Joel Dutton. This is the fight for second place in at the silver class. They're fighting for P9 overall, and as they make their way in towards the hairpin, well, of course, no points gained for overall position. It all comes down to class position. There's a little bit of pride on line if you finish inside the top 10 in the silver class, and Pollock gets the better exit out of Oak Tree. It's going to be a drag race now, and Pollock's got the overspeed already. Can he convert it into an overtake around the outside into roller coaster? This is going to be a tough one for Pollock. They're still side by side. You can see Dutton right now is losing leverage. The car's not fully alongside him. Well, he tucks back in, and as the Pollock in the end, well, the privateer has set that Porsche up for straight line speed. You can see it in the fact that the exit was absolutely blazing out to the corner, and subsequently, that was about the best part of 1 to 2 miles an hour more on the straight, and it was felt from the outset. And as the Pollock right now retakes P2 in the silver class, P9 overall, and with Connor Craven only 2 seconds up the road, can he spring a late surprise and chase after the Olympus Esports leader? All three of your top 3 drivers in the silver class in a single camera shot there, all close together. There's still time to go, and mistakes can be made as Joel Dutton into the pits, and that is strategy. I think going to haunt the Luxembourgish driver for the wrong stuff there. Here's a quick splash and dash as he sits there for a brief moment, and fuel goes in, and Dutton then just not having enough fuel and absolutely fuming, no doubt about it, in the fact that he's not been able to make the strategy work, and therefore drops all the way down the order. But as he does so, well, that might explain why he didn't have the speed on that back straight versus Alistair Pollock and had to back off to a degree. Will mean, well, we look here to your race leader, and he is on the final lap of racing here today, in the fact we've only got 30 seconds left to go, and he is at Oak Tree hairpin. It's going to be more than 30 seconds to get to that start finish line to do another lap. So 22 laps is going to be the tally, no more no less today, ladies and gentlemen. And Patrick Thompson right now on leading course for what will be his first win upon returning to the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup since season 7, but as he makes his way on through. And Thomas Cope there with a little fun fact in the YouTube chat, which is Patrick's last win was in season 7 at Silverstone, which is the same race that confirmed, of course, Thomas Cope taking what was his maiden gold at Drivers' Championship status. And well, as Patrick Thompson makes his way on down right now, Philip Hammer still there, still chasing all the way to the checkered flag. But I get the feeling there's only one answer in terms of who's going to be your winner today, ladies and gentlemen, for as he makes his way out of Honk Pen Corner. It's been some time since we've seen him on the grid, and well, he took wins in season 7, but as he returns to grid in season 10, he starts off with winning ways, because Apex Racing Academy's Patrick Thompson takes the checkered flag, your gold class winner ahead of Impulse Racing's Philip Hammer. Corey Lazarus completes the overall podium there, and the gold podium for Blackout OPL ahead of Emil Cooper's Alfonso Suto. James Parker is P6 ahead of Daniel Sedgey, and then it'll be Connor Craven, who on his debut in the series takes the silver class win for Olympus Esports, P8 overall, ahead of runner-up in the silver class Alistair Pollock in an absolutely sensational debut drive as well for the number 10 driver, the privateer. And David Biggerdike in the end, through swings and roundabouts, takes 3rd place in the silver class after what has been a roller coaster ride of a day, and that's P10 overall ahead of David Van der Waals. Paul Halliday just missed it out on the silver podium, P4 class, Brian Walker P13. And then shortly we'll have Joel Dutton coming to the line after a frustrating end to his day in the silver class after that late pit stop being forced upon him due to fuel considerations. The wrong stuff trial will take P5 in silver, P14 overall. Iron Halliday comes up through to take P6 silver, P15 overall, and a good start to his season for the Null Pointers. And then it will be Craig Schill, who will be one of the last finishers of this race, P16 for ATX at Racing Siam. And as he comes across the line, it will then be Glenn Humberstone, who will be your last finisher on the lead lap. We've already had the race finished, a lap down by Sean Doby, P18, and Daniel Weston 3 laps down, P19 for DCW Racing. For Glenn Humberstone will be your last lead lap finisher for ATEC Racing, P17, or it is P8 in the silver class. But as he crosses the line there, well, all cameras and stars will be shining on Patrick Thompson for Apex Racing Academy. And what a start to his season after taking pole position by what was 1.2 temps. Indeed, it was a slender advantage, but he made it count in the end. Head of Corey Lazarus, Philip Hammer would find his way through from a P5 start, and the Impulse Racing driver would take P2 behind him. And well, I think we could be starting to see a new rivalry form, the Thompson-Hammer rivalry. We'll have to wait to see if that's how it plays out in practice, but both drivers there enjoying a sensational race, and of course both fully acquainted with one another from season 7, and will the old sparks firing up once again. But meanwhile, we do look to what it is, I do believe, Connor Craven. In fact, Craven's already out of the car, and will the Silver Star and a fantastic debut to his season, no doubt about it. Debut start with a win in the silver class, and well, as Corey Lazarus makes his way on down the cool-down lap, a P3 over in the gold class, the Blackout OPR driver. I think he'll be gutted missing out P2, but still, given the mistake he made early on and having to use the safety car as a means of bringing himself back into contention for the podium, I think he'll be pleased to be on that final step. And no, it is just the start of the season, and again, it could be Lazarus' season just as much as many a driver here, as he is yet to take a championship crown. He's come close in past seasons. But as the drivers all bring themselves into the pit lane one by one here, we have a couple more drivers still to do so, including Craig Schill and also Glenn Humberstone there, the two ATEC racing cars side by side here, and I think having a little bit of a conversation over the car radios to one another right now as they bring it on in. A tough race for ATEC Racing today in terms of the official teams, bar Alistair Pollock, of course, the privateer second place, finish in the silver class under the ATEC Racing sign banner, albeit listed as a privateer for the purposes of the team's championship. Definitely not their round to start off the season, but we know that ATEC Racing normally take a couple of rounds to find their feet before they start to build up that pace. And we're Glenn Humberstone there having a bit of an error coming out the final corner. Let's take a look to those scenic views, ladies and gentlemen, and with it, let's take a look at those race results. And after a fantastic 45 minutes of racing, albeit interrupted to a degree by a caution being thrown over 3 laps of the safety car, round 1 of the UKSimRacing Porsche Cup Season 10, as brought to you on the iRacing Simulator platform, was won by no other than Patrick Thompson for Apex Racing Academy. And what a drive to take the win by 1.4 seconds in the end over Philip Hammer for Impulse Racing. Corey Lazarus rounded off the top 3 there, both overall in the gold class, ahead of Blackout OPRs, well, in fact, of Blackout OPR, I should say, and ahead of Emerald Koopmans for Effect Simulations. And then Afonso Souto finishing a further, was 3 seconds behind the Olympus Esports driver, gambling on strategy, but it wasn't to be today, and therefore in the end taking what was a P5 rather than the podium. ATEC Races James Parker, P6 there, in what was a bit of a back and forth day today, with a lot of pressure coming from Ryan Walker behind and not quite able to make further progress. But finished ahead of Daniel Sedgey for Olympus Esports, who was a further second off. And in P8 overall, Connor Craven for Olympus Esports, and your silver class winner on his debut, and a great start to his season. Alistair Pollock, meanwhile, P9 at second place of the silver class, and we'll mention there in the YouTube chat under Aero Alley, running out of fuel on the last corner and still bringing it all the way to the end, and that's an achievement in its own right. Congratulations to him. And David Biggerdite there, round off your silver podium of Connor Craven, Alistair Pollock, and David Biggerdite, the privateer there, finishing P10 overall. David van der Waals, P11 there for Olympus Esports, best the rest, ahead of 4th place silver finisher, P12 overall Paul Halliday. No pointers, driver had a back and forth day of racing, but in the end getting some good points on the board despite qualifying not going his way. And Ryan Walker with that extended time in the pits and that gamble in the pit stop strategy, P13 then for Satellite Racing, not paying off, but he's still got plenty more rounds to go. And Joe Dutton there as well, running low on fuel on the penultimate lap, wasn't to be. The wrong stuff driver falling down to P14, ahead of Owen Halliday, who rounds off your top 15 for the null pointers. Craig Schill, Glenn Humberstone and Sean Dobie there, completing your top 18, albeit Sean Dobie for ATEC Racing sign a lap down. And as we come to the last half finishers, Daniel Weston, P19 for DCW Racing, 3 laps down there, but classified as a finisher, and he did complete over half the race distance, therefore he will take the points today. And then our 2 retirees, unfortunately, Mats Strand retiring 17 laps in the end for Racing Lab Esports after that instant coming out of turn 6, where the car seemed to break and go into the barrier, and Guy Kylie out with retirement after what was 2 laps of racing for the wrong stuff, car into the pits. We're not quite sure of the story there, but it definitely did not work out for the number 17. And then coming on to the class finishing positions, of course, this is where all the points are scored. And in the gold class, firstly, Patrick Thompson, your winner for Apex Racing Academy, ahead of Impulse Race's Philip Hammer, and Corey Lazarus a further, 4.2 seconds behind to complete the gold podium. Emerald Koopmans, P4 for Effect Simulations, on a good start to his season. He'll be hoping for a podium next round, no doubt about it. Afonso Souto there, definitely showing a lot of pace today, and definitely keep your eyes out for the Olympus Esports driver. Not the result he wanted, and that result not describing what he brought to the table here at VIR. James Parker, P6 for ATEC Racing, ahead of Daniel Sedgey, with David van der Waals at P8. They're not quite in the pace of the leading gold class drivers today, but the pace going through in the race, they'll be hoping for more next time out. And behind the Olympus Esports pair, Satellite Racing's Ryan Walker, and then the unfortunate retiree and non-finisher for Racing Lab Esports of Mats Strand P10. Then coming on to the silver class, last but by no means least, here we can see Connor Craven, your winner for Olympus Esports by 3.5 seconds over Alistair Pollock, with the privateer on the charge in the end, but running low on fuel, and that gap a little bit wider than perhaps anticipated. But then fellow privateer David Bignight completing the silver podium a further 4 seconds behind. Paul Halliday P4 there for no pointers ahead of the wrong stuff's Joel Duton, who'll be frustrated over strategy, but still not quite going his way today, but showing podium pace. Iron Halliday P6 there for no pointers, and a further 9 seconds behind it was Craig Schill for ATEC Racing Siam. Completing the officials in the lead lap, Glenn Humberstone for ATEC Racing. Now a lap down the fellow ATEC Racing Cyan driver of Sean Doby, and his debut for the team today after racing from the conglomerate of Clicks Racing and ATEC Racing last season. Not to be the debut he wanted, however. Then 3 laps down, but classified as finisher, Daniel Weston for DCW Racing, with the sole retiring in the silver class 2 laps after the start, the wrong stuff's Guy Liao. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our first race of today, and we'd just like to remind you, and do not forget to vote for your driver of the day. Link is available once again in the YouTube or Twitch chat, whichever media platform you're tuning in via, and do use that Google form to let us know who your driver of the day for today's RaceNet VIR was. It's 3 simple clicks, and we will announce the driver of the day in the qualifying session in next week's round of racing in what will be rounds 2 and 3 at Circuit Zolder. But with that, the broadcast is not quite over yet. It's because whilst the circuit falls silent and night time does descend, we're going to be stepping away for the best part of what will be about 10 minutes in preparation for our post-round interviews with our drivers. Don't go anywhere, you won't to miss them. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our first set of post-round interviews for the season. And we're going to be hearing from both our class winners, first and foremost today, starting with our overall winner as well, Patrick Thompson for Apex Racing Academy, then coming to the silver class winner from Olympus Esports, Connor Craven, for then talking to our other silver podium finishers, Alistair Pollock, the privateer, who finished P2 in class in the end, and David Biglite, the third place finisher, the privateer, and hearing their respective stories. But first, let's talk to the man of the hour and of the day. He joins me now in the interview room, Patrick Thompson. Patrick, it's been 3 seasons since we last saw you on the grid. Previously raced under the Olympus Esports banner and batting with Philip Hammer and Thomas Cope. But today you're back for Apex Racing Academy. And well, firstly, welcome back. And what a way to welcome yourself back onto the grid. Pole position by 1.2 temps and in the win in the end in controlled fashion. You couldn't ask for better, surely.
No, that was definitely a nice way to come back to the series. Yeah, I was out for revenge from last time I was here. I mean, last season I drove. We actually also went to Virginia, and it wasn't a great success like this time. Let's just say it like that.
Oh, indeed, making amends for a bit of a negative memory in the past. And well, let's talk a little bit about how you started today, qualifying firstly. Qualifying seemed to bounce back and forth between yourself, also like Corey Lazarus, also Alfonso Souto for Olympus Esports. It looked quite uncertain all the way throughout the session until the final 5 minutes where you put in that absolutely phenomenal pole time that nobody was able to beat. How did qualifying feel for you out there?
Actually, it was a very quickly evolving track. So, quite like in F1, it almost felt like you wanted to be out there doing the final lap right as the session was gonna end, kind of. Yeah, the difference between the start of the session and until the end, I felt there was a good bit of extra grip towards the end of qualifying. So definitely helped me get in a nice lap at the end there.
Well, that extra grip always coming in handy. And of course, this Virginia International Raceway circuit, one of those circuits whereby you've got to push it to the absolute limit in order to get the best possible lap time. But even dare dip a slight bit of a tyre off the road and you're suddenly taking a trip to the grass.
Yeah, VIR is definitely a very interesting track. I mean, it's one of the tracks I really enjoy, because it has this charm. It's you gotta really push the limits, but as you say, also if you push the limit too much, you're gonna get punished. And yeah, um, luckily, at least we don't have the old grass model anymore, because then I think a lot more, including myself, would have probably been to a few adventures during this race.
Oh, indeed. Thankfully, none of those adventures. But I do have to ask, coming back to the qualifying times, grip was available towards the end of the session, pole in the end by 1.2 temps. Was there a bit more time out there, perhaps, or does it feel as though you're just able to stay one step ahead of the field?
I think I left a little chunk on the table. I mean, it wasn't going to be a massive improvement, but I think there was a good solid, at least a tenth out there to be found here and there. Just maybe committing on the brakes a little bit later into certain corners and so on. But I had limited time to prepare for today, because I took the decision to come back this morning while I was at work, and I've been feeling a little sick, so I kind of just jumped in and had to wing it. So I'm quite happy with how it all ended.
Well, if that's you winging it, I only imagine what it's going to be like when you're not winging it and it's getting 100% from initial practice all the way through to execution. But still, great to have you on the grid and going into the race. A very well managed start, of course, given the fact leading into turn 1, and it looked as though in the early stages you were opening up a gap, only for the gap to come back together. Was that part of the strategy?
I mean, I wouldn't have been too fussed about the gap closing back down, because around here it is very difficult to run away, especially in the Porsche Cup. You need like about a 2-second lead before the draft really becomes something not worth speaking about. So I always knew that it was probably not likely that I would push away and leave the people behind me. But I took the decision when I saw they started catching up that I would just play the long game, watch my tires, watch my fuel, and then see where we got from there.
I see. And speaking of managing the tyres and the fuel, We did have the first pit stop play out just before the halfway mark, and it looked as though the aim of the game was to try and get that fuel tank to go as long as possible. Was there potentially the one stop on the cards before we did see the safety car?
No. Even without with the safety car, I mean, I was hyper saving during the safety car, and I only managed to have an extra lap of fuel. Uh, Now that might sound like a lot, but considering how long we were on the safety car, it was quite close on fuel, and I was really monitoring it for like the last 10 minutes, making sure I didn't overstep the fuel usage I could do, while also maintaining the gap to Philip behind me. So yeah, it was without the safety car, it was no doubt going to be a two-stopper.
I see, and of course that safety car also bringing the gaps much closer together. Although, speaking of that, we did see that in the first half of the race, Afonso Souto keeping you honest all the way through, and a couple of points getting within 2 to 3 attempts. Of course, this circuit is one of those circuits where you really need to be in about 1.5 to 2 attempts at most to look for a move. So it looked so as close as he could get, he wasn't quite within attacking range.
No, I know it was again at the point in the beginning where I decided what the plan would be for the race going forward. I always knew that he would have opportunities to come close to me, but if I just made sure to take the preferred line, it's very difficult to pass around here, and especially if I force him to go the long way around. So it wasn't much of a worry, but what was a bit scary though was when he was keeping that close to me, if actually he would be able to fuel save even more than myself and come out ahead of me, because then we would have a battle on our hands.
Oh, without a doubt, but it wasn't to be, because shortly after leaving the pit lane, we did see the caution run that lasted 3 laps and turned the second half of the race more into a sprint at that point. And it looked as though for those final 13 minutes, it was mostly in control of yourself until Philip Hammer started to get a bit closer.
Yeah, it was the first few laps was quite interesting. I felt like I was having a good pace and actually creating a small gap to Philip, and then I don't know, something woke up inside him and he actually started closing down that gap. So it got a bit intense for a few laps towards the end, but I I don't know if his tires started struggling towards the end or what happened, but in the end, it felt like the pace was not fully there. So, I just tried to keep myself clean and drive it home.
Doing it precisely that, and seeing at the first checker flag of the season, waving higher for yourself. I mean, it must have felt special to start the season off on a win.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Especially with Thomas Cope, during the practice prior to the race, was in voice chat, trying to distract me as much as possible, just because of good old banter between old teammates. So yeah, it ended a lot better than maybe I could have hoped for.
Well, it's a strong start to the season from yourself, and you absolutely fitting back into the grid. It's like you've never been away, it feels. And well, in a week's time, rounds 2 and 3, we head to everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, that's Circuit Zolder. How are you feeling for the 2 rounds there?
I hope that Roxanne is gonna, extend the track limits, that we can occur, because my God, this track and track limits is absolutely horrendous. So it's going to be very interesting race, that's for sure.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you take on the challenge that Circuit Zolder is going to present in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, Patrick, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
I mean, definitely to you, Paul, for the amazing broadcast that you managed to provide for every single one of these races. It's even for the season I've been away here, I always enjoy watching your broadcast, because you create just such a intense and awesome atmosphere. Then obviously to Roxanne and the rest of the UKSR team for making these leagues a possibility. And finally, I would just like to thank the Apex racing team. It's really been a journey, and I'm looking forward to where I can go from here. Only been with them for just about half a year, but I definitely feel like they have helped me grow to a length that is far beyond what I was previously. So yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic too. And as you look to scale to new heights with the Apex Racing team, we've seen you start your journey and chase the pursuit of new heights here in Season 10 with a win overall and in the gold class. Patrick, it's been an absolute pleasure and we look forward to plenty more in a week's time. But until then, congratulations and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thanks, and you too, Paul.
So hearing there from Apex Race Academies, Patrick Thompson, our gold star today, taking pole position and then the win in the endurance race. And we're talking about the fact that qualifying felt as though there was more grip available towards the end of the session compared to the start, and that being worth the extra time to put it on pole. And feeling comfortable in qualifying, no question about it. And also then going into the race and feeling control throughout, although concerned, and that's quite an interesting insight there about the fact that Afonso Souto was able to stay so close for so long on that opening stint, and we're seeing that here in the pictures as the drivers roar their way on through the S's in towards turn number 10, and the Olympus Esports driver never quite going away. And well, could that be a sign of more to come in the upcoming rounds? Because if Souto could stay that close for longer, could we see the battles and the elbows come out between the two drivers? Well, that's a fault already. But also hearing there from Patrick about the fact really redemption after what was a difficult day of racing at Virginia International Raceway in Season 7, where nothing went to plan on that day, one of his weakest rounds of that season. So to start off the season at a bogey circuit with a win and being in control is the perfect beginning of a journey in Season 10. And how will that journey continue at circuits older? Well, only time will tell, but definitely track limits are going to be on his mind for rounds 2 and 3. But now coming on to our next interview, ladies and gents, we're going to be hearing from Connor Craven from Olympus Esports as he gets ready to jump into the interview room. And as we get ready to hear from him, and as we get ready to hear from the one and only Connor Craven, we'll get to hear his story and his perspective on what has been a debut class win for the man. And well, he joins me now. Good evening to you, Connor. And well, we've been hearing stories about how you've been absolutely rocketing around in the GT3 League. And now you're here in the Porsche Cup. And much like teammate Thomas Cope said in the pre-round interview that you seem to have taken to the Porsche Cup car, he definitely wasn't wrong because you seem to be gelling with it. But how does it feel to have taken a win on your debut?
Yeah, that was really tense. So I did the GT3 season last go round, and I didn't really gel with it. I was always sort of back of the grid, bottling it, and just not generally having a fun time. I know the Olympus guys are quite big on their P-Cups, and with Tom not doing P-Cup this season, I thought I might step in. Big shoes to fill, but you never know. So I just jumped in a bit of a practice session a couple of weeks ago and gave the car a go, and it just instantly I just enjoyed it. Despite the lack of ABS and downforce, etc. I just felt it was so much more fun to drive, so much more comfortable, and yeah, I hope I back that up today.
Oh, without a doubt. If we needed any more evidence about backing things up in that regard, you've shown it. And well, let's talk a little bit about qualifying firstly. A P2 in qualifying in class, P11 overall. But between yourself and David Biggerdike, who was the pole sitter, was in the end only 200ths, if that. I mean, it was an incredibly close qualifying session, all around small margins.
Yeah, that always makes it interesting, isn't it? It's I wasn't actually sure what class David was at first, so I put in a good lap and I thought, oh yeah, that's the one. I popped away from the rig for 1 second just to prepare. I looked on the stream and saw he was the same class as me, so I had to run back and try and get a quick lap in. And unfortunately, I was a couple of attempts off, so David did really well there to put that on pole. Yeah, I managed to get a good start and reset that, and it was a case of trying to run away at that point.
Well, indeed, and that actually brings us on to the race. It looked as though where David found a lot of wheel spin at the race start for yourself, it just glided off the line into turn at number 1. And also a little bit of a cheeky start from yourself, it must be said, looking for the move around the outside of Mats Strand, not just through turn 1, but all the way through to the end of turn 5.
Yeah, the start caught me out as well. I've done one race before in the P-Cups at Hockenheim in official, and I lit the wheels up, spun and took half the grid out, so I was definitely nervous. I've been practicing the starts quite a bit this week, and yeah, found myself on the outside of Mats. There was nowhere else really to go other than to keep my foot in. Obviously these like to kick their back end out quite nicely, so I was a bit tense around those first few corners, but it was a big confidence boost being able to keep up with Mats. Obviously he He was champion last year for silver, so it certainly helped settle the nerves a little bit.
And with those nerves settled, we then saw what seemed to be a bit of a cat and mouse chase between yourself and David for the best part of what was the opening 20 minutes. And if we look at the replay footage right now, we're seeing more and more of that. But a little bit of assistance perhaps from your teammate David van der Waals, the gold class driver, who in the end seemed to put a thorn in the side of your rival.
Yeah, it was a funny one with David. It was certainly helpful having him there, but I didn't want to ruin his race. He was quicker pace-wise. So I was kind of hoping he'd get past David and I could maybe strategically let him by so he can go and have his own race. But unfortunately, around VIR, that's not as simple. So yeah, it kind of worked out that maybe David was looking at our David in the mirror, maybe not ahead of him, which possibly explained turn 14 when David Biggerdike I think he went off straight on. Don't know whether he missed his braking point or what. So that was a big relief, and yeah, that sort of gave me and David a bit of breathing room.
Well, indeed, it made us almost lose our breath in the commentary booth when we did see David Biggerdike go straight on there, and you were able to avoid all the drama unfolding around you, no questions about it. And then, as we see that replay footage right now, and you had to take evasive action, not just from your rival, but also your teammate. But then coming on to the pit stops, we did see you come in the first wave of pit stops along with the majority of the field. And then shortly after, we did have the caution from the 3-lap safety car. How did that feel at that point, given the fact you've just set up your strategy, you've committed to it, and then suddenly the pace of the race has been completely turned down?
Yeah, it's always the way. The cautions are certainly great for the spectators and the people that have possibly fallen off the pace, but when you're out in front and you've managed to gain a bit of a gap, it's definitely a bit of a kick in the gut. Yeah, it all worked out in the end, but at that point I was a bit nervous. As you possibly saw from the GT3 League, I'm a bit of a bottle job when it comes to pressure, so I just tried to keep my head calm. Tom Cope had spoken to me before and said, just race your own race, don't worry about what's behind you, you can only do what you can do. And yeah, just kept replaying that in my head, and yeah, that worked out.
Oh, indeed it did. And as the race went on the restart, 13 minutes remaining, we did see a bit of back and forth from Joel Dutton and also Alistair Pollock in their pursuit to yourself, and Dutton getting quite close at certain points, but it seemed as though he was a little bit low on fuel compared to yourself. I have to ask, how was the pressure, not just of your rivals getting close, but also looking at the fuel gauge?
Fuel was a funny one. Obviously you saw the strategy from Afonso and Dan, and we were actually going to pit the next lap when David Biggerdike did as well. But for us, the pit lane was closed according to iRacing, so that kept us out, and I think that saved us in the end. And then watching the fuel calculator, we had less than a litre left for the remaining 13 minutes. I crossed the line with just over a litre, so that was absolutely spot on. I saw Alistair catching very quickly in the last lap. I think I'd overdone my tyres or just started to fatigue. I don't know. I dropped the pace big time, but I think I'd managed to gain enough of a gap to hold that off. But yeah, fuel was definitely close, but luckily we just calculated that right and we avoided the pits.
Well, it worked out quite nicely right at the end there, and bringing home a win in the silver class on your debut. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better start to the season, but how does it feel to see that checker flag and know that you pulled it off?
It's a massive relief. I've jumped across all sorts of formulas, all sorts of cars and leagues, trying to find something that gels. My Olympus teammates have seen me getting quite frustrated at times because every car we jump into, they all run off. So it's nice to jump into something and have a bit of success, and I'm hoping I can carry that through the season.
Well, success to start the season, but there's a long story ahead, and next week, rounds 2 and 3, we head to Circuit Zolder. How are you feeling for the Belgian chicanes?
I don't even know what the circuit looks like. I don't own the circuit, and I think I'm going to have to put some practice in on that one. So that's this week's agenda, I think. I hope the missus doesn't mind.
Well, it definitely sounds like it's going to be heads down and plenty of work ahead. But just before we do let you go, Connor, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, of course. As always, the team at UKSimRacing have done a great job. Yourself for the stellar broadcast as always. Roxanne for hosting this. I know she has a lot of pressure to get this all set up and ready, so she does a great job. The guys at Olympus for putting the time in with me, especially Thomas Cope and Dan Sedgley. They're quite familiar with this, so having their advice was massive. I was running plus 50s a couple of weeks ago, so they got me down below that mark. And yeah, finally my partner for letting me sit in the lounge while she's watching Married at First Sight, screaming and racing on the rig, I guess. So yes, thank you very much.
Well, if we have to use the show name, I do think it might be Marriage at First Sight between you and the Porsche Cup 9 and 2 car, given your performance today. But we'll have to wait and see how the season plays out. But Connor, it's been an absolute pleasure. Congratulations once again on taking your debut win in the silver class. We look forward to plenty more in a week's time in Belgium. But until then, have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Thanks, Paul. See you next week.
So hearing that there from Connor Craven, the Olympus esports driver, who today, it wasn't quite a pole position in the end after a little bit of a mix-up with regards to not knowing whether David Biggerdike was in the silver or the gold class, and admitting that he had to run and jump back into the car after thinking he got it all done for pole, only to find out he'd missed out by 200ths in the end. But he put it down where it mattered, and that was at the race start, taking the lead, and despite the pressure being put onto him by his rival, and indeed a good number of silver drivers over the course of the race, and also the caution being thrown, which only served to bunch up the field. And he said, real kick in the guts there in terms of knocking the wind out of his race. It wasn't to stop him from bringing home the class win, and well, definitely showing how comfortable he's come to be with the Porsche 992 machine. But still at the same time, also reflecting on the fact that it's the start of a journey, and well, he'll be looking forward to it next week, albeit a bit of trepid anticipation, as he's never actually seen the layout of Circuit Zolder, and therefore plenty of practice ahead. But he definitely seems to be at home with Olympus Esports, and well, if this is going to be his starting pace, I can only imagine how high he'll rise as the season goes on. I think all of his rivals will now be looking to raise their game accordingly in order to take on the number 4 driver. Then coming on to our third interview, ladies and gentlemen, very shortly. Indeed, we're going to be hearing from Alistair Pollock, and well, we're going to be hearing the story of the man on his debut today who ended up taking what was an absolutely superb drive to P2 in the silver class. And well, as he gets ready to join me in the interview room, you have to give us a brief moment and we'll get to hear from Alistair. And well, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be great to hear from the driver under the privateer badge, and to hear his story on taking to the Porsche 992 Cup car. As he does join me now, good evening to you, Alistair, and well, from speaking to one driver who's made their debut today in the silver class and taking the win, it's also been a great debut for yourself in the silver class with a P2 finish and a P9 finish overall. You were close at the end, a lot of pace coming on through, but fuel being a bit of a limiter. But how was it for you out there?
It was interesting. So it was my first race with UKSR. So I wasn't really expecting much, to be honest. And with not having any HUD or anything on board to see what position I was in, I was rather surprised at the end to find it was P2 in class.
Well, definitely an impressive start to your Porsche Cup campaign, no doubt about it. And it seems as though you're enjoying it out there. But let's start off with perhaps one of the weaker aspects of your evening. Talking about qualifying, a P4 in class, a P14 overall. Looked tight out there in the silver class, and in the end, not quite able to find your way onto the front row.
No, so I'd done a lot of practice leading up to the race, and I was quite confident that probably qualifying was going to be my stronger part, but for some reason after 2 or 3 laps I just couldn't find the pace, and decided to kind of cut my losses and get a rest in before the race.
That's absolutely fair, and these Porsche Cup cars, of course, can be very demanding, even on the most experienced drivers. But do tell us, what's your experience like in the Porsche Cup car before racing this series?
Non-existent. So I've done a little bit of Porsche Cup in official races with iRacing, but overall I've not really had much experience with them. I've come from MX-5s and a little bit of a dabble in GT3.
Well, that's quite the evolution, it must be said. And if you were to jump into the deep end, that's the way to do it. And I think you might already be inspiring some other rookie drivers of Porsche Cup to give it a try as well. And well, speaking of giving things a try, it didn't take you long when we did go green at flag racing to try and start making places. And in the early stages, chasing after David Biggerdike, who did have a bit of a slow start by comparison, and you're very quickly hunting down the top 3.
Yeah, I think that all just comes from the confidence I had with qualifying. So I couldn't find the pace in qualifying, but as soon as the lights went green, I knew that there was maybe 3 or 4 people in front of me that I could likely get a consistent pace over, so I wasn't overly keen on hanging around and seeing what their pace was before I could get the jump.
I see. And whilst going on the attack in the early stages, we also did unfortunately see a brief off track on lap number 4 that cost you quite a sizable bit of time, and one a bit later on in the race. I have to ask, with those off tracks, do you feel as though perhaps they just interrupted your flow and perhaps cost you some places?
Definitely cost me some places. I wasn't expecting it. The 300-meter board comes up very, very quickly, and if you're on the attack into turn 14, it's pretty risky, and you know you're going to end up in the grass. But it didn't seem to detriment the rest of the race. It was all down to the safety car and just taking that calculated risk on whether I could hold enough fuel under that safety car.
We definitely took the risk in the end, as we saw in the YouTube chat. You mentioned the fact that you practically ran out of fuel at the finish line, but in that final 13 minutes, the fastest pace of anybody in the silver class, and attacking your way through to the P2 finish from P4. I mean, you looked absolutely relentless out there. I have to ask, what tyres were left on the car?
I'm not sure they resembled tyres, I'll be honest. The last 2 laps was like ice skating, but luckily I've had enough time to really kind of knuckle in and see how stressed those tyres can get, and it's a lot more than I think a lot of people are willing to push it. If you set the brake bias, you can really last out maybe 4 or 5 laps longer than the car expects you to.
I see. Well, definitely a keen insight there, and with that bias shift giving you just a little bit more longevity. And I have to ask, given the fact that fuel was running critical at the end, it looked as though you were quite eager to chase down Conor Craven for the win, but I get the feeling fuel was just going to stop you from being able to do that. So in the end, it was more about just get the car home and take the P2.
That's it. So the second to last lap, I knew I was closing in a little bit. And it wasn't until I saw my dash kind of flashing at me that I realised the last lap I had to lift and coast, otherwise I wasn't going to make it. I managed to get about 100 metres before the finish line before it fully went lights out on me.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and I think the smart call being played there to take the second spot on the silver podium and start off your championship campaign on a very good foundation. Now, of course, we've got another 11 rounds of racing to go, and looking ahead to the wider calendar, are there any rounds in particular where we can expect you perhaps to be on your finest form?
I'm not sure, to be honest, only because this is my first time racing with the Porsche Cup. I've not actually spent any time with the car on any other tracks yet. In general, I think Zolder's going to be a fun one next round. Otherwise, I'm just going to take it as it comes and see how much practice I can get in before each race.
Well, that's a fair approach, and focusing specifically next week on Zolder, you say it's going to be a fun one. Is it a circuit you've enjoyed in other machines, given your MX-5 and limited GT3 history?
No, so that's where it's going to be fun. I've never managed to kind of get that natural flow as Zolder. I know a lot of people kind of jump to Zolder as either they love it or hate it. It's always been a Marmite track around the people I've raced with, and I've always been on the side of just not being able to find that natural rhythm. So hopefully I can get some time in and find it with the Porsche Cup.
We definitely look forward to seeing whether you can find that time and find that flow and rhythm that could see you go to victory in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me this evening, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yes, so I didn't know I was going to be able to get into the Porsche Cup this year. I've sat back and watched Glenn Humberstone race it for the last few seasons. He's been someone I've raced with long ago back in Assetto Corsa, but he managed to help me get set up with the car and give me some insights on how to drive it. So yeah, I'd like to give Glenn a shout out. Hopefully his race was decent. I know he didn't finish where he probably would have liked to, but I'm sure he'll make up for it next round.
Well, that's absolutely fair, and I'm sure Glenn will appreciate the shout out there. And it's great to see you running the UKSimRacing livery alongside the driver who's inspired you to be on the grid, and we look forward to plenty more from yourself and the wider team. But with that, Alistair, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. No doubt about that. A great P2 finish to start off your championship game. We hope to see plenty more at Zolder in a week's time, but until then, happy practicing and have a fantastic rest of your evening.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paul.
So hearing there from a rather jubilant privateer of Alistair Pollock, and well, the number 10 driver has plenty to be jubilant about today, no doubt about it. Interesting, however, talking about the fact that he expected that qualifying was going to be his stronger session today. And well, I think that might be right now sending a small message to Conor Craven and also to David Biggerdike, which is that perhaps this is the man you need to keep an eye on when we head into qualifying in a week's time. But it wasn't to be today. P4 in qualifying in class and P14 overall, and saying he just could not find the time once he was out there starting to put the laps in. But where he did find the time was when he went racing, albeit some early mistakes in the race and also later on costing him some places. But with the safety car bunching the field up, it wasn't really to upset the flow of the race for Alistair Pollock. And in the end, he would have the pace to come on through to finish P2 in the class. Could he, without the mistakes or potentially a bit more fuel in the car, have gone for the win versus Conor Craven? It's a big what-if question. And rather than talk about the what-ifs, let's talk about the facts here, which is he showed a great amount of pace in the final 13 minutes of the race in the chase. Was fuel limited, but still, it's only time that's going to tell whether this could be a theme of the season, that he could be right now a man who's very, very likely to start to come through on pace. And we'll find out more about that at Circuit Zolder in a week's time. So then coming on to our final interview, ladies and gentlemen, you heard from 3 of our drivers. We've got one more to talk to, and it's going to be none other than David Biggerdike, who gets ready to join me in the interview room. And well, as he does so, we're going to be hearing the story of his pole position, but also the difficulties in the race that cost him dear and meant that he finished P3 on the podium in the end for the silver class. As he does, join me now. Good evening to you, David. And it's always a joy to see you out of the circuit enjoying yourself and at the same time having you in the interview room. But I get the feeling today might have been a day of slightly missed opportunities, because a stellar pole position in qualifying, but in the end, a P3 in the race, where I suspect a P1 was what your intentions were.
Yeah, you start on pole, you always want to win, don't you? But no, I've actually come away quite positive from that. I think it was just some strategy decisions that maybe went against me on that. But my pace felt good and I felt comfortable all through it. I didn't really make any glaring errors. Very easy to on this track. You can just end up sliding away on the grass. So, but no, overall quite happy, to be honest.
That's absolutely fantastic to hear, and well, one of the best parts of your day, no doubt about it. Let's talk a little bit about that qualifying lap, taking pole position in the end by 200ths over Conor Craven today. I mean, it was always going to be close around it. This is one of those circuits which really demands you push it every inch and step of the way. But how did it feel for you in qualifying?
It took me a while to get going. I didn't get a clean lap in until about 10 minutes in. And then I think it was my second kind of clean lap on that stint where I set that time, which really happy with. I wasn't trying to overdrive the car. I think it's very easy on this circuit and this car combination to overdrive it, and that's where you end up clipping the grass or running wide on a corner, and then that's that done. So I just felt in a good rhythm.
Well, the rhythm was definitely demonstrated, and of course, this is you returning now for what I do believe, my memory serves me correctly, your 3rd season in the Porsche Cup. And well, it always seems as though from season to season, more and more pace keeps on coming through. But I have to ask, in the off-season, has there been anything you've sort of focused on in terms of developing yourself as a driver behind the car?
I've not done loads. The second season, I only did a couple of races. It was, I think there was like Nürburgring and a couple of others that I did just because of availability. And then I've definitely tried to practice a little bit more before this one. I did a lot of the officials last week at Road Atlanta to kind of get that feeling of the car again. And then I only actually managed to do an hour practice on this track, which probably wasn't ideal, but it seemed to work out all right in the end.
Oh, no doubt it worked out well. And then going into the race, once we went to the grid, all lined up and ready to go, and it seems a little bit of wheel spin plus an erroneous launch saw you lose the lead before turn 1.
Yeah, I don't like being on the outside on this on this track. So obviously, being kind of P10 overall, it put me on the outside. And then once I'd had that slow start, I just tried to tuck in on the inside. And I was watching a kind of a silver and a gold driver battling in front of you, which is it's something you want to see when you're in second, if you're honest, because it obviously slows them down and allows you to stick with.
Oh, indeed. And as the opening stint of the race went on, we saw you inching closer and closer to the back of Connor. And going into turn 14, only a few laps in, we did see you try to go for the lead.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually. It wasn't an intention. I was chatting with Connor in the waiting room beforehand, just to understand, kind of, because I was about 0.4 seconds behind. Then all of a sudden, I found myself right on him with a sight picture that I didn't like. So that's why I kind of put myself off to the right to try and avoid anything. I think our braking points were slightly different for that corner. It's something I'd noticed laps before, that I was definitely braking slightly later than he was on that corner, and whether we had a combination of me braking a little bit later, him braking a little bit earlier, that caused that kind of massive kind of change in the sight picture that I saw, which is why I put it off. And luckily I didn't hit anyone or cause any incidents, because I was in a bit of a sandwich with Connor and his teammate at that point. So.
Well, without a doubt, it was a bit of a mouth-opening moment, but thankfully for all the right reasons, it was avoided, like you say. I'm glad you could talk it through with Connor after the race. And well, from that point onwards, we saw you have to embark on a degree of a recovery drive, only made more complicated by what was the safety car. And we also saw you spend an long time in the pits when you came around for a second pit stop.
Yeah, I was doing some calculations, or trying to do some calculations into the safety car, because I saw a couple of people pit on the first lap that the pit lane was open, which I assumed was open. And then it was the second lap. I was trying to figure out what my fuel usage was and the safety car, and how many laps I would need. And I took the decision to come in. For some reason, I got a penalty on the way in. I wasn't speeding on the pit lane. I don't know whether it was because I maybe overtook some of the cars in the kind of safety car line on the way in. So I had to sit for about a minute, I think it was, after my fueling was done. Luckily, because of the safety car going round, the penalty didn't impact me too much, but it put me right at the very back with what, kind of 10-12 minutes to go. I was at the very back of the queue, and I only just caught up with it before it went off, and then I had to fight my way back through everyone to get back to P3, which is where I pitted from anyway. So you could say the pit stop worked, I guess.
Well, indeed, I can see your point there, and well, fighting your way through to make it to the final spot of the silver podium, despite it all, just goes to show the tenacity with which you've approached this round, and indeed looking to approach the season, no doubt about it. And it's a reasonable start, all things considered, a pole position and also a podium. And in a week's time, we head to Circuit Zolder for 2 rounds of racing action. How are you feeling for the Belgian circuit?
I haven't raced that since the last time. I think it might have been season 7 was my first season. I think Zolder was on that, and it's track limits is interesting there. I was just chatting with Patrick on the in the waiting room as well, and obviously track limits is a big thing. And then the first chicane there, you have to jump the curbs from memory, but it seems that the curbs will just decide which way they want to send you every lap, and it can change. So it's an interesting circuit where if you try to overdrive again, the curbs and the off tracks will start to add up, and obviously I wouldn't be surprised if we see some drive-through penalties and whatnot there for racking up those off tracks.
Well, it's definitely going to be a challenging one, like you say, in a week's time, and we look forward to seeing how you rise to that challenge. But looking to the wider calendar as well, are there any other circuits on the calendar which you're looking at and thinking that could be the circuit for me?
I like Nürburgring. It's one of my favourites, because again, it's one of those where you kind of beat yourself before you beat anyone else there, and it is, if you overdrive, it's very easy to put yourself in the wall. So it's somewhere where I've driven the Nürburgring 24 Hour a few times, and I know the track quite well. Obviously, I think there's Spa and Road America before that from memory, which again are fun tracks. It's quite a good season by the looks of it. So.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing you take on those circuits, no doubt about it. But before that, we do look forward to next week when you head to Circuit Zolder. And just before we do let you go, David, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, just obviously thank you to the UKSR team. I know Roxanne was dealing with some latecomers today, or people not giving her the information she needed, which can cause her some issues. Obviously, they're giving up their time to set these events up for us. And then my partner for getting me a McDonald's just before the race. Although the Uber Eats driver needs to do some practice laps, I think.
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Oh, well, David, with that, it's been an absolute blast to have you in the interview room. Thank you for joining, and what a performance day, no doubt about it. A solid drive to a P3 finishing class, P10 overall, and of course that all-important pole position to crown it off. Congratulations on your performances today, and we look forward to plenty more in a week's time in rounds 2 and 3 at Zolder.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers.
So hearing it there from our final interview of today, David Biggerdike, the privateer, who really did lay down a lot of pace today and feeling positive as well, coming away from today on a high on positives, which is always great to hear. And will that pole position happen in the end, taking pole by only 200, but find his float around the VIR circuit and not letting it go to take a P10 overall. And then going into the race, talking about the fact the launch progress from the standing start wasn't quite where he wanted it to be, but he was dreading the idea of being on the outside line going into turn 1 or starting on the outside half of the grid, and that's where he would be with the P10 start and come at turn 1. That's exactly where he found himself, dropping down the order on the outside, enjoying watching the battle, however, between what was Mats Strand and Connor Craven, and starting to bring himself back into that battle. But then only a few laps later, that off at turn number 14, not intentional, having to take evasive action due to differences in braking points, as he's explained. And with that in mind, what essentially happened as a result was a recovery drive began for David Biggerdike, quickly recovered, then strategy came into the mix with that caution, and then being held in the pit lane for a minute due to what seemed to be a penalty being applied for potential overtaking under the safety car, albeit we're not quite sure the story behind that, given the fact he was making his way into the pits. But either way, the automated stewarding system tried to keep him at bay, but the one thing it couldn't stop David from doing was finding his way back to the podium, battling his way through the field and taking P10 in the race, albeit a P3 in class. But to be fair, he'll be happy with that, and he's looking forward to the rounds ahead. And who can blame him, because he's laid down a marker, and we look forward to seeing how he builds upon that at Circuit Zolder next week. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from all 4 of our interviews, and congratulations to all 4 of them on their performances, and a huge, huge thank you to them once again for joining me in the interview room today. And if any of them or any of our drivers have caught your eye for voting for Driver of the Day, do remember to vote for Driver of the Day in the Twitch chat there or the YouTube chat. You'll see the Google form, which you can use, only 3 clicks, and that's how you cast your vote, and we'll be letting you know who the Driver of the Day was in a week's time in the qualifying session at Circuit Zolder. But a big thank you once again to our interviews from tonight. Firstly, our gold winner and overall winner, Patrick Thompson from Apex Racing Academy. Then our silver winner, Connor Craven from Olympus Esports. Our silver second place finisher, Alistair Pollock, the privateer. And then who we just heard from, David Biggerdike, the pole sitter in the silver class, third place finisher in class, come the end of the race, the privateer in the number 14. Well done to them all, and we look forward to seeing them on the grid in a week's time. But with that, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can be on the grid at the UK SimRacing community, perhaps you enjoy Porsche Cup racing and are feeling the itch to scratch in terms of wanting to be on the grid with us, or perhaps you're more of a GT3 enthusiast, or perhaps you're more of an MX-5 or a GT4 enthusiast. We've got a little bit of everything for everyone, or perhaps you just want to join a community of like-minded individuals. Well, for all that and more, we firstly recommend you go to our website, that's UKSimRacing.co.uk, where you can find out all the latest information about UK SimRacing, including our ongoing and upcoming series. And also how to join the Discord. You saw the website earlier on the broadcast today. But if you don't want to go to a website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, you can of course follow us on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_. We can stay up to date all the latest announcements with regards to UK Sim Racing series and also the trials and tribulations of the official UK Sim Racing esports teams. Now we'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include firstly Swilly Almeida Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swilly Almeida Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swilly Almeida has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swilly being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PSCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment aimed to only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. SimLab, leading manufacturer of high quality sim racing related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. Amazon, the company trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include the likes of, but not limited to, Amazon Prime, Amazon Fire TV, and Amazon Alexa. And lastly, our new affiliate as of this season, Thompson's Coaching. Are you in need of a bit of steer that is not quite over or under? Struggling to find that extra 10th? Or just looking to be braver on the brakes? Well, if that sounds like you, then why not check out Thompson's Coaching? Run by professional esports sim racer and Apex Race Academy driver Patrick Thompson, Thompson's Coaching aims to provide some of the finest coaching from one of the very best drivers in the industry. Are you worried about price? Fear not, because Thompson's Coaching is quality coaching made affordable, meaning that no matter what your budget, there shall be the right level of coaching available just for you. Are you interested? Then join the Thompson's Coaching Discord today to get started. And we're very grateful to have the affiliate status with Thompson's Coaching, and well, thank you to them for joining with us on the programme. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now turn our attentions to next time, and indeed, in a week's time, on Thursday, the 11th of April, save the date, because we are going chicane hopping at Circuit Zolder in Belgium. It's everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, many would say, but still, whilst it may be the second favourite, the one thing we can love and hate about it is its variety of chicanes and short straights. It's going to be close on the brakes, overtaking is all going to come down to mistakes, and the one key thing at all is going to be a strong qualifying lap in our two races. But who will come out on top in our first heat and feature combination round of the season? We'll find out then, but until then, we have been at UK Sim Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul at TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, when we continue the story of Season 10 of the UK Sim Racing Porsche Cup, remember to stay well, stay safe, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.